Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to SimRace South Africa and welcome to round 2 of your 2026 Season 2. My name is Kernick and we are in for a treat as round 2 takes place at one of the most amazing circuits in the world. One of the circuits that challenges drivers. Doesn't matter who you are, what car you're in, whether you're going for an all-time lap record or you're planning to be the fastest in endurance racing. Welcome to the Nürburgring 24-hour layout. It is an absolute honor to be here for SimRace South Africa, and it's going to be an incredible season of back and forth action. With that being said, let's take a quick look at what the track layout is for those that have no idea what the green hell is. It is 25.3 kilometers long, 170 corners, and the drivers will have to remember every step of it. A track that will force drivers to think a little bit of what they're going to do to preserve a bit of tire life, to preserve fuel, and also where can they get the passes done, as this circuit combines the Nürburgring GP circuit along with the green hell, the Nürburgring, a legendary monster in its own right. The combined circuit itself will test drivers, and with a complete field of GT3s, there is not a lot of room for side-by-side overtaking. A lot of follow leaders needed, and you're going to have to really risk it for the biscuit to ensure you stay on the top. However, our drivers are looking to move forward in the championship. As this is round 2, we have got quite a bit going on. Let's take a look back to round 1 and look at our standings for the championship thus far. As we take a look, it is Sean Skitter at the top of the charts for Logistical Nightmare Racing Team out in a Honda NSX Evo. He's going to be battling it out with Sean Loureiro in his BMW GT3. Ruben Heineke joining in with the Ferrari 296 lies in third place with Chris Heineke chasing him down. The family fight still continues even to this day for many years. The Griffin Sim Racing team looking to stay at the top, because in 5th place is Jeffrey LaRue, followed by Jason Farmer. Ulrich Diaga chases him down along with Anthony Monitz, Jason Luck, Timothy Gomez, along with Hans Kruger, Tyrone Myberg, Wilfred Robertson, Jaco Nordman, and rounding out our top 15 in the Ford Mustang is Gert Swart, who will be trying to close down on the pack. And with the circuit going to be a rather tricky one, everyone's having to think, what is the next step? What is the next plan to move forward? And how are they going to stand at the top after 170 corners of back and forward fighting? Now, this is something that does get a bit interesting, because we are looking at an hour and 30 minutes worth of racing around the circuit, with your lap times able to get down into the sub 8 minutes if you're able to get brave enough. And it's crucial for the championship to ensure that you stay at the top. There is a skip round to work with, and the drivers don't want to be utilizing it too early into the season. Especially, we've got 6 rounds of racing for our Season 2 here at SimRace South Africa for our GT3 Championship. However, drivers will need to now consider their options. A big thank you to all our sponsors joining us here. It's YOLO Design Co. We've also got Oxford Distributors along with us, brand new sponsor to our series, and also simGT3, where you can go and look into our racing and be a part of the amazing show. Now, at the moment, our drivers will be looking to get their way around the circuit, and so far it's just running in a bit of practice at this stage of the game. So everyone trying to figure out what they can do with 3 minutes left on the cards. Let's quickly take a look down to what our circuit looks like. And right on the top of the track, that is Mr. Myberg himself, looking to stay at the sharp end of the field. He's got Ulrich Diaga waiting in the pits, Wilfred Robinson as well, as drivers are not going out on circuit at the moment, but waiting for their time to really get the power down when we get into qualifying in just 2 minutes time. A massive welcome to everyone out on the circuit, and whether you are parking off in the GP and enjoying the sights and sounds, or whether you're heading up into the green hell itself, welcome to everyone out in the virtual grandstands taking a look at who is around. Tony Gamble shouting out, "Go Jason Farmer, my boy!" And the rest of the Griffin Sim Racing team. Never changes. Absolutely wonderful to see that. Ruin Heineke as well, going and saying, "How's it? Crazy stunts as well." Absolutely incredible to have you guys around. And a massive welcome to everyone joining us. If this is your first time here in SimRace South Africa, well, you're in for a real treat. This is Mr. Monkeys in the Quagga team trying to keep up the pace. As you can see, no one has been able to set a lap time thus far around the circuit, and that is due to how long it is. But everyone trying to figure out what can they do to get that little bit more of a chase down. We also got Kylian Bernardi, who is running a little bit further down in the Lexus. Now, interesting fun fact about the Lexus, it is a highly nimble car around the circuit. The BOP does favor the car, but drivers need to be very careful as it does land up destroying the front left quite a bit. So he has to be a bit considerate on how hard he's going to push this car and how far is he going to be moving up through the order. And also is joined by Francis Bernardi. The Bernardi Alphabet team will be going and charging their way to the front. Chris Van Zyl, a little bit further down on the BDE team, will be on a stellar charge as well. We're just waiting for our drivers to make their way through. We do have our server. This is for the Pro Division. This is our main division that is joining us on the circuit here this evening. We run 2 separate servers for drivers to feel out what they can do and also to match skill levels together. And that does make a crucial play for everyone because it's all about what you're going to do against your skill level. So you're not going to be racing against aliens if you are new to the Sim Racing South Africa. You get to race with your skill level. However, you do want to be in this server to fight out with some of the best in South Africa. As now we start to tick over, our free practice will come to an end and we will be looking forward to our qualifying session in just a short moment. Folks, this is a stressful circuit. This is a crazy circuit and we're in for a bit of fun. So with that being said, let's take a look back to our championship performance. And it is Sean Skitter that will be looking to stand at the top come the end of tonight's race to ensure he can lengthen that championship run. However, it's going to be a bit of a difficult one to ensure he stays at the top because of how the circuit can play into it. Sean Skitter has had some nightmare moments racing out here. The Griffin Sim Racing team will be in constant communication with one another to ensure they can fight out for the top and ensure they stay right where they need to be with only just a couple of points separating the top. Ulrich Diaga out on track with the likes of Wilfred Robertson from the Logistical Nightmare Cheese and Wine team out there in the Mustang and playing in the sandpit at this stage of the game, trying to see where he can get a little bit more of a run. Sean Skitter as well, just trying to get a little bit more pace underneath him in that Honda NSX. Tires are going to be cold. Drivers are going to need to be well aware of this, and they have got a very short time to get it done and dusted. 18 minutes still on the clock, and they still have to get their first flyer out the way. They will get roughly 2 laps to get this all done and dusted. A couple of drivers opting to stay in the pits, like Mr. Trekhardt, who is holding on to 5th place at the moment. Daniel, the likes of De Villiers, this is Peter De Villiers, now the Quagga team, will be waiting out as well. And Anthony Monitz, who is joining up in the Mustang, now heads out onto the circuit, the Oxford ATT Racing, looking to get back to the top. Part of our sponsors here and getting the live stream back on track. Wonderful to have our Oxford ATT team coming and having a bit of fun, and our Oxford Distributors to be part of the show as one of our new sponsors here in Sim Racing South Africa. Myberg trying to carry a little bit of momentum through, will be looking for a solid charge as he makes his way up towards the back end of the GP circuit and will then start to peel off after the NGK chicane to dive up onto the green hell and will be at full flight looking to try and get a sub 8 minute lap time next time by. So as the drivers carry on a little bit of momentum, let's take a look at the interior. And here's the NGK chicane in through left-hander, second gear, slowly through, gently backing things up and now just trying to warm up some of the tires as our drivers get ready to do their first flying lap. So they will round out the final corner, stand on the gas, and it's up to full flight to start their first flying lap. Myberg trying to chase down everyone ahead of him, will be looking to make it a proper run in the Mustang. Ulrich de Jager as well in the BMW. Wilfred Robertson in the Ford Mustang. Sean Skitter, the only Honda in the field, along with Jason Farmer, the only McLaren in the field, compared to the rest of the field opting for Ford Mustangs, Ferraris, BMWs, all hoping that that's going to be the big run. There's unfortunately not a big variety when it comes to the Lexus, one of them sitting around, and also our Aston Martin with Chris Heineke, the Griffin Sim Racing team, will be fighting his way through as he joins onto the green hell, long left-hander, flat out onto the gas, and now down to second gear, swings the car through. He's getting tailed by also one of our Griffin Sim Racing team, that is Ruan Heineke, trying to close up the gap, and will be looking for a stellar run. One of our main admin coming and joining us, unfortunately not here tonight on the grid, but is watching from the sidelines cheering on. And there's Saz van der Westhuizen, who will be going and keeping a close eye on everyone, trying to up their pace and looking to stay closer on the path of 300 kilometers an hour when they hit the long backstrip straight. That pretty much is like driving from Joburg to Bloemfontein. It's a long drive, but it's where you can make up a lot of time. Ruan Heineke jumps over the curb, long right-hander to keep it all together. And you've got to have faith in the downforce. Keep it firmly planted as you navigate through the curbs, hoping to move a little bit more forward. Drivers looking to step up the pace and really make it work here tonight. The question is the mid-engines going to be the right idea around this 24-hour circuit that's usually utilized for endurance racing, now being utilized for sprint racing? And our drivers that don't often get to practice around this track will now have to see what they can do around a circuit that demands you to be on point every step of the way, remembering 170 corners, remembering all 25.3 kilometers, and you're going to be doing that in roughly 8 minutes if you are at a slow pace. You can get down to just under 8 minutes, heading towards 7.5 minutes if you're at full flight and you really are not afraid of some of the corners. Now, we do have to take our hats off. Unfortunately, there was a death recently at this beautiful circuit after a 7-car pile-up, and we do go and respect the fallen drivers. Unfortunately, one losing his life here at the track. But here in Sim Race South Africa, we're looking to make it work out for our sim racers. Fortunate enough, they don't have that risk, but they do have the risk of getting some severe damage to their car that will land up going and throwing them down the order. And last thing you want to do is lose out that little bit of pace. One clip against the wall here means that you are going to be sitting for a very long time trying to drag the car back up through the field, and it's never an easy trick to do, as our drivers have learned during practice, quite a few of them going and catching the wall. Sean Skitter navigating his way around. He's out on the GP circuit, trying to keep it all together, and will be looking to move up into first place. Remember, he is leading the championship at this stage of the game, as unfortunately 2 of our drivers not quite getting their way around the circuit, and that is going to be Chris Van Zyl, who had to come back to the pits to get himself sorted out and will be heading back onto the track. Jason Luck of the Lionspeed GP going and trying out his luck. He is also tailing behind Ulrich de Jager in that BMW, allowing the slipstream to pull his way through as it navigates around. You're going to be working, utilizing 5th to 4th gear at the moment, trying to keep the power on, heading up to 6th at the upper part of our Nordschleife Green Hell circuit. Our marshals keeping a very close eye as, Jason Luck gets it out of shape, rubs against the wall. Can he save it? Only just, but that unfortunately will impact his time. He has to try and bring the car back, and now try and settle the nerves after a very high speed fall off. Close to 200 kilometers now, heading up towards the carousel. This is an incredible drive as we jump on board, down to 2nd gear, in through the long left-hander. Our carousel is all about exiting, not getting too sideways as he came up a little bit high, got thrown out a little bit, had to catch the car, and now lost a little bit of time, having to really dial it back a little bit. The tires not quite where they need to be, not quite as optimum as they need to be, and unfortunately, critical mistake as he piles into the wall, catching too much curb, and that is going to be, unfortunately, Jason Luck heading back to the pits to try and restart, and will have to try and redo his entire qualifying with 11 minutes to go. It's not quite working out there. Sean Skitter also having a bit of a problem. He's not able to get a lap in, leaving the rest of the field still out on the track, trying to find that little bit of pace, trying to find if they can close up the distance and also put a valid lap time on the board here at the 24-hour circuit. Everyone looking to move forward. Everyone trying to dial it up. Everyone trying to move forward. This is Timothy Gomez of Go Slow, trying to not go slow as he makes his way through the carousel and flat on the gas, getting chased down by Myberg behind. Timothy will be utilizing a lot of rear end steering as he tries to get a little bit of oversteer with the Porsche 992 to try, and sorry, the 991.2 to go and ensure he stays at the sharp end of the field. The question is that throughout this, he needs to keep a solid bit of pace, a solid rhythm, and not to be caught out by Myberg, who is gaining a little bit of time right behind him. But if you venture off the racing line, that's it. Game, set, match. And well, Timothy, unfortunately, getting it sideways. So did Myberg, as both of them put a wheel off circuit. Both of them losing out that little bit of drive. And now trying to pick up the pieces of their qualifying session at this stage of the game. A rough start to our qualifying. And also our drivers having to really think outside the box. Myberg now closing down on Timothy. Tyron hoping to stay right on the back. He's going to utilize the slipstream coming down the main straight. If he doesn't get caught out, you can see how the car's bouncing along over the tar as this track has ebbs and flows. And oh, Tyron taking a little bit too much curb there. Unfortunately getting rather unsettled, and that allows Timothy to break away, get a little bit more room. Also helps out Tyron to go and get a little bit of an easier drive, not worrying about aero wash affecting his car as bad. Jason Farmer first to get a lap time on the board with brand new colors on his McLaren, and 8:16.4 as he gets tailed on by Sean Skitter. Ulrich Diaga, the second of the drivers to get a time on the board, and 8:25 this time round. He gets beaten out by Chris Heineke, the Griffin Sim Racing team. So the Griffin Sim Racing's having a lot of fun out there. Werner Heineke goes and puts himself up into third place with an 8:23.2, and Chris Heineke with a 8:22.2. Ulrich Diaga so far the slowest out between those that have done a lap time. We're still waiting for a couple of drivers to ensure they have a solid run. As we see Gideon now trying to get a little bit more of a run off the back straight, off the Nordschleife circuit, carve his way through the S's, down the gears, in towards second, and gets closed up by one of our Ferraris, hoping to have a stellar drive. The question is, can he keep it together? And that's Trickhart, who will be tailing him. Now, drivers now coming across the line. Is it going to be enough? Gideon will be blasting his way through as he heads down the main straight. And unfortunately, an invalidated lap time goes and takes him out of that running. He'll have to just wait yet again and try and get a lap in. Myberg puts himself up into 5th place with Gomez holding on to 6th. The Go Slow Racing team managing to put a time on the board there, and that leaves Francis Bernardi in 7th position. Lubert Menkes for the Quokka team holds on to 8th as the last of the runners that so far have got a time on the board, an 8:45.5 last time out. Farmer trying to get a little bit quicker so far, 1.7 seconds up on his time, hoping that that's going to benefit him. Chris Heineke trying to close up the distance as well with Werner Heineke on his tail. So far, unfortunately, a number of drivers unable to get a time on the board, all the way from 9th to 21st, have invalidated their first lap time, and they're running out of time here at the beautiful circuit of Nordschleife 24-hour combined. And so far, drivers having to really think outside the box for round 2 of the Sim Racing South Africa GT3 Championship Season 2 here for 2026. and everyone hoping that they can keep that solid drive. Chris Heineke also trying to get a little bit of a lift, seeing where he can gain a bit of time, and he has got Michael Hassenbrook behind him, another one of the Griffin Sim Racing drivers that has been on a stellar charge of late, hoping to move his way up through the order. So far, a couple of drivers able to get a time on the board, Louis Tricot being one of them, up into 10th position at the moment with an 8-minute 59.5. Mankey sits in 9th position with an 8-minute 45.5, and still trying to get a little bit more of around 0.3 off his best lap time, and unfortunately not picking up much pace from there, having to really dig deep and find any little bit of grip he can out on the circuit with the Ferrari 296, that turbocharged V6, hoping to pull his way along and see if it's going to help out, as we got Wimpy Monkeys on the Quacho team managing to get up into 11th with a 10-minute 16 on that last lap. Not quite a blistering pace, but it is a lap time on the board that will help him during the course of this race. With Myberg and Gomez, unfortunately, not able to go out for another lap. They're going to wait out the 6 minutes and just see where exactly the cards fall here on the beautiful Nordschleife circuit for round 2 of the Sim Race South Africa GT3 Championship. At the moment, Jason Farmer still the best to beat so far, 1.5 seconds up on his time. The McLaren finding quite a bit of pace out there and wanting to keep a solid run. So far, round 1 didn't go his way. He's hoping that round 2 is going to be a little bit better. And the Griffin Sim Racing team have been practicing quite a bit on this circuit, with Jason Farmer playing a little bit of catch-up and also trying to figure out where he can get that little bit of grip to ensure he stays at the top, beating out Chris Heineke, Ruben Heineke, Ulrich de Jager, and Tyron Myberg, who holds on to the top 5. So far, Sean Skitter just a little bit further back, hoping to try and close up the distance. Sits in 14th, yet to put a valid lap time on the board, and still trying to find any little bit of pace, close up at a rate of knots, hopefully to sit in the slipstream down the back straight is going to be the game plan. However, he needs to get a Getty up and go and make sure it fits for him at this stage. Otherwise, he will be starting in 14th unless the rest of the field is able to get a time on the board. Another one of our drivers out there, Gert Swart, who holds on to 21st position out in the Ford Mustang, trying to get a little bit closer to Sean Lerero and a little bit further back, Hans Kruger going and finding out. Chris Van Zale, Jason Luck, who we saw having a bit of a moment a little bit early on, now heads through the carousel, carrying a lot of momentum. Over the curve he goes, and really trying to just find any little bit of pace. 12 cars have gotten the time on the board thus far, and so far it is still a hard situation for any of the drivers to move forward to see what exactly can be done. So, as our drivers aim for a solid charge, that's all the game plan now. Michael Hassenbrook going a little bit wide out of the carousel. You could see how the car went and bucked around as he had to try and catch the rear on the way through. But with 3 minutes and 39 seconds left of qualifying, Myberg, Gomez, De Villiers, Mankey's, and Luck. So far, drivers have decided they're not going to get a lap in. They are going to stay in the pits, wait out that little bit longer, and see where exactly they can get a little bit more momentum. Chris Heineke out in the Aston Martin, one of the older of the cars out on the circuit, and much like our Honda NSX and Lexus being the older spec cars that we have here on ACC, but still extremely relevant in their pace, and we're going to see that tonight. So far, one driver that is on a stellar run, 5 seconds up on his best lap time, and so far on a solid charge, Oxford's ATT Racing very own Anthony Moritz, who lies in 9th position, now managed to pick up 6 seconds, as we got likes of Louis Tricot of the Quacho team now up 7 seconds as well. So a couple of drivers managing to close up that little bit of time, ensuring that they can stay in for the fight. The question is, can they carry it through right to the end to see if they can beat out that 1:18.6, that 8 minute 16 seconds around the circuit. And yes, it does sound like a very long time, but if you consider the option, 25.3 kilometers, 170 corners, and the drivers will be averaging about 160 kilometers an hour. Some of the corners they're having to slow it right down to 60 kilometers an hour through hairpins just to make it work in their favor. Wilfred Robertson crosses the line up into fourth, 8 seconds off our leader with an 8-minute 24.4, with Ulrich Diaga right behind him on an 8-minute 25.7. So very close between fourth and fifth position at the moment. And both drivers won't be able to get a solid second lap time on the board as our qualifying starting to run short. Gertswaard up into 14th with Wimpy Mankies into 15th. But it's Sean Skitter going and trying to pick up the pace, yet to get a time on the board. He has been racing out there, but not able to get a valid lap time, much like Gideon Bernardi, Michael Hessenbrook, Jason Luck, Kruger, and Lorero are yet to get their times on the board, and still no one able to dethrone Jason Farmer and Chris Heineke from that front row. As our timer starts to run out, everyone's starting to think, right, if I can't get the qualifying done and dusted now, what am I going to do for the race? Now utilizing a bit of practice as we catch up with Bernardi, unfortunately. Francis Bernardi parking off on the curb, not having an easy time out there. And I do want to point out, these curbs are rather high out on the Nordschleife circuit. If you get it wrong, you can beach these cars and you can land up stuck towing back to the pits. That will take you roughly 8 minutes tow back, excluding any services that you can get done on your car after you get towed back. And that unfortunately will put you a lap down. So no one wanting to land up with that very same problem. Kurt currently 2.8 seconds up on his time. Anthony Monitz still holds on with 6.7 seconds. Anthony hoping that he can keep that stellar drive, hopes that he can keep that run with 6 seconds up on his time. It will be looking towards a top 5 if he can keep this charge. Now it's all about maintaining the pace, making sure you can get it to the very end as we jump on board down the long straightaway up into 5th gear. You don't want to have too much drag on the car, but with this circuit, you want to have a little bit more aero than you think, just to give you a little bit of survivability as the race goes on, especially as the tires start to fall off here in the GT3 class out on the Nordschleife 24-hour layout. 5th gear, not going into 6th. Anthony holding it in 5th all the way through, and an interesting call on his part not to travel up into 6th gear, but to hold it in 5th all the way down the back straight, just letting the engine scream its guts out. But it is going to help him out as he does come across the line. Is it enough? Comes across and moves himself up into 10th position. Very interesting though, not going and selecting up to 6th gear to give him that extra little bit of a run down the back straight. Maybe just going and thinking he's in the highest gear possible. I do think the pit crew will be having a chat to him saying, listen, there's the 6th, go for it, utilize it, it will help you out that little bit more. We could see the blue rev lights on the top saying, come, engage a gear, let's move forward. So far, 2 cars yet to come across the line, and that is going to be Wilfred Robinson and Hubert Mankies at the moment. Both drivers are trying to get their times on board. Gideon Bernardi, unfortunately, not able to improve his time. Jumps out of the way for Jason Luck as these two just continuing to circulate. But it looks like both drivers are not going to be able to get another lap in to improve. And they will be down at the back of the order. 24 and 21 cars will be starting this race. The question is, who's got the stamina to run that little bit longer? Who's got the stamina to stay at the sharp end of the field and to keep focus around a circuit that is treacherous? One simple mistake, as Jason Luck has found out a little bit early on in qualifying, you put a foot wrong, you will land up in the wall, and it is going to hurt the suspension. It's going to hurt the steering as it's hard on the brakes, swings it into one of our tighter portions of circuit. Out on the green hell itself, Jason Luck, line speed, GP, still hoping to get a solid run. Wilfred Robinson going to be really pushing as hard as he can. Logistical Nightmare Racing Team. His teammate that's out on track with him, Sean Skitter, leader of the championship, hasn't been able to get a lap time on the board. Wolford Robertson of the Cheese and Wine Team, the old man, going to be cheering on and also getting coached on by the rest of the LNR team as they wait to see what he can do. Currently 0.4 up on his personal best, and it's going to be helping him out possibly to get him into the top 5 as he did an 8-minute 24.4, and Sean Lerero ahead of him managed to 8-minute 24.0. So far, every single driver just trying their absolute best, trying to see what they can do for the last little bit of qualifying. 13 minutes remain of our extended qualifying time to allow us to get these cars across the line to see who will stand at the top. The question is, can they get that solid run? Can he keep it? At the moment, Robertson finding 0.9 of a second. Mankey's finding 5 seconds over his original lap time, which is absolutely incredible pace. Will bring him down to 8-minute 40.5, but he needs to try and close up to an 8-minute 37.9 to be in 11th position ahead of Francis Bernardi, who will be keeping on that stellar run. Drivers still out on circuit, giving it that last little bit of a push, trying to find that extra little bit of pace, finding every little bit of grip out on track. Will be hoping they stay at the sharp end of the field. The question is, can they do it? Come the race, it's going to be 1 hour and 30 minutes of driving. You're going to have to really push that a little bit harder. You're going to have to think where exactly you're going to move forward. Plus, they have got a mandatory pit stop to think about as well. That also changes your options on refueling. When are you going to be able to get that pit stop done? Are you going to get it after your first lap, try and top the tank up and run straight to the end? Or are you going to leave it as late as possible, fuel the tank up, run on the old tires until the very end, get the stop done, and get yourself back out on circuit? So there's still many options that our drivers will be looking at. Here's Wolford Robertson starting to catch up to the Bear Mankey's, who holds on for that 12th position in his Ferrari. You can see both in one shot as our Mustang tailing on the back of the Ferrari, navigating their way through the second of the carousel, trying their absolute best to stay on the money at this stage of the game. Everyone looking to move forward, and my word, we have got a stellar charge. However, it is a Griffin Sim Racing hard defense at the top, with only Robinson as the defense in 6th, as Jason Farmer, Ruan Heineke, Chris Heineke, Ulrich Diago, and Sean Lerero hold on to the top 5. Robinson holds on to 6th. He's looking to try and at least break that little bit of a toe to the likes of the Griffin Sim Racing team. Mankey's still on a stellar charge. He's now up 8 seconds on his run. Robinson is 1.7 seconds. Both drivers are in a critical stage of their drive, each trying to move forward. Robinson trying to look around the outside, and it's Mankey's into the wall. Mankey's into the wall, was 8 seconds up on his time, and unfortunately, under braking, going through the right-hander, got it out of shape, smack bang into the wall, and that unfortunately will push him down the order. Robinson comes across. He's up into the top 5, pushing Lerero down to 1 position. He managed to carry the drive, and unfortunately saw the likes of the Mankey's into the wall. Gideon Bernardi trying to travel as fast as he can, yet to get a time on the board, same as Jason Luck, Michael Hasbrook, Kruger, and Skitter, all haven't got a time on the board, but it is done and dusted for our qualifying as we look forward to the race coming up shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back as we just finished up with qualifying here in SimRace South Africa for Season 2 of 2026, Round 2 of the Championship for our simGT3, and it has been so far an exciting one for our qualifying. But now we head into the race. Some of the fastest drivers in South Africa looking to battle it out around a legendary circuit of the Nürburgring 24-hour layout. This is a circuit that you can cement your name in history, or you can take one of the most solid impacts against the wall that will leave you reeling for the rest of the championship. And out in front, it has so far been a Griffin Sim Racing team lockout, with everyone looking to move forward. The question is, can they maintain that pace? Can they stay at the sharp end of the order? And will they be able to call themselves a winner for round 2, maximizing the points in the championship? Each of the drivers trying to do their final little bit of setup work to these cars before they drop them off the jacks onto the ground, and the tires will start to cool down as they will have to try and build up as much heat into the tires, into the brakes, and also get their head locked in to ensure they stay at the sharp end of the field. It's always going to be a close one, and every single driver looking to move forward. That being said, let's take a look at our drivers as so far, trying to get a nice camera angle of our cars. There we go. Jason Farmer holds on to first place. He is tailed by Ruan Heineke, his teammate, in second. Chris Heineke will hold on to third, with Ulrich de Jager locking out that second row. Wilfred Robinson and Sean Loureiro looking to tail each other out for 5th and 6th. Jason Luck in 7th position. Tyron Myberg in 8th, with Chris Van Zyl in 9th. 10th is Timothy Gomez, along with Anthony Monitz, who hasn't gotten off the line. Monitz sitting on the start-finish line. Not quite sure why, but that is going to be a big problem for him. Bernardi holding on to 12. Mankies sits in 13th position, with Peter de Villiers down in 14th. Lee Trickott holds 15th position with Gert Swart. Wimpy Mankies a little bit further down in 17th. Sean Skitter, our leader of the championship, in 18th position with Gideon Bernardi. And Michael Hassenbrook, Hannes Kruger, rounds out in 21st position. Bit of an odd call coming in for Moritz, who decides to not go out and only gets charging off the line now. Maybe a proper little bit of problems going on with his car, and unfortunately now having to play a little bit of catch up to the rest of the field as they navigate their way around. It's going to be all eyes to the front row. Farmer and Heineke looking to get a stellar charge here for the start of round 2. Everyone looking to move forward. Everyone looking to have a great run, as they will slow things down just a little bit as they navigate their way around the GP circuit. First time they will be relaxing around this track. Once we go under green flag conditions, friendships, rivalries, and teams will fall apart, as it will be you versus the track. 170 corners, 25.3 kilometers, and I cannot stress that enough. Drivers will be battling out for 1 hour and 30 minutes with a mandatory pit stop that needs to get finished. Jason Farmer holds that number 1 on the car for a reason, but now needs to make it work. He's a little bit down in the championship. We'll have to ensure he's in for a good run here, and this is gonna be a proper one. The Heineke's right behind, running 2nd and 3rd, will be keeping a solid chat to one another, deciding, okay, who's going to get it here? Is it going to be Ruan Heineke, Chris Heineke? Which of the two of the brothers are going to have this fight? Which of the two family members are going to stay at the top? The question comes down, who is going to be able to get the run up to the line and get the first lap underway? You can see so far Chris Heineke trying to build up a bit of heat into the tires, while Ulrich de Jager maintains his pace. It's a bit of a Kimi Raikkonen approach. While everyone warms up their tires, everyone else just opting to brake drag, try and generate enough heat into the calipers that bleeds into the carcass of the tires through the rim, and gently warms it up, gets everything up to pressure so they can stay in for a solid run. Farmer, who will be starting out and will lead out the field, 70 kilometers an hour as they navigate their way through. Pit lane closed up. Drivers now heading on to the back as they will do a full formation lap around the circuit, trying to just get to grips with it. Everyone taking a bit of a breather as our safety car has pulled away. So it's a nice gentle drive thus far, and a long one. For anyone that hasn't quite planned out their pit stop strategy, this long formation lap will force drivers to really think what they can do to go that extra mile, to see what is going to be a solid run. And so far, a number of drivers braking hard, hoping that they can just generate some little bit of heat, as it will be cooling down a lot around the circuit. You can see Sean Skitzer trying to make his way back up through the field. Jason Luck out on track, trying to keep an eye on the championship as well. Talking about that, let's take a look at what our championship stays and where everyone is able to move forward. Now, it's all about keeping the momentum. It's all about trying to figure out what your championship is going to do, especially as tires are cooling down right now, brakes are cooling down, and it's a long lap. You'll see many of the drivers start to lose focus just by going a little bit slow. They're sitting at about 70 kilometers an hour, and they're able to get a little bit of pace before they have to back it off and ensure they don't go too far. Otherwise, you will land up going and getting yourself a penalty. De Villiers, who is in pit lane, opting not to go the full lap. He will start from the pit lane, allow the field to go through, and see if that's going to help him out just that little bit more, to see if that's going to be enough to carry him through the championship, and also not to get too fouled up. His tires are going to be cold on the restart as well. That will land up affecting him. Have to keep a solid eye on it. Our Premier Division out on track at the moment with 21 competitors. So far, Sean Skitzer leads out with Sean Loureiro in second place. Now, Loureiro is holding on to 6th from qualifying. Ruben Heineke is so far 3rd in the championship and will hold on to the front row, with Chris Heineke chasing him down, lying in 3rd place. Jeffrey Leroux, unfortunately, not in the field tonight and will be missing out around. Jason Farmer, who starts in 1st place, will be in 6th in the championship. If he can maximize the run here tonight, he will be able to boot himself up through the order. Ulrich Diaga as well. Anthony Monitz, who lies in 8th place. Jason Luck in 9th. Unfortunately, wasn't able to get a solid lap time out, as he was up on a pace. Unfortunately, getting a bit out of shape. The Porsche 992 GT3R landing up in the wall. Timothy Gomez holds on to the top 10 in the championship, as our drivers gently bringing themselves together. And this is a long, long lap. That is for certain. Folks, this is a lap and a half for our drivers that now haven't quite planned for their fueling to come into play. And you can see a lot of drivers still maintaining a little bit of brake drag at this stage to see if they can generate any heat into the tires and into the brakes. Now, they've also got to be careful about this, as they can land up overheating the brakes. Now, in ACC, there is a beautiful build-up with it, where the drivers can actually land up with brake fade. And that is a serious thing to consider when you're around a circuit like this. Brake fade is when you've utilized the brakes a little bit too much, they've overheated, and as you start to push the pedal down to the floor, it will start going and feeling a little bit numb. You won't be slowing down as quick as you would like. You will be battling to keep yourself at the sharp end of the field. You will also find it very difficult to slow these cars down, relying a bit more on engine braking. You can't go down the gears a little too quick, otherwise you can put a little too much pressure on the diff. That will land up in a world of hurt. So gentle run through, and our drivers not quite through the circuit at the moment. They're still waiting out. If we take a look at the track, you can see they're still on the bottom half of our green hell at this stage of the game. They haven't even got to the top. Ruben Heineke opting, he's going to get himself a little bit further back, waiting to go through. Farmer trying to push a little bit hard, and you can see where exactly they are on the circuit at the moment and where they're needing to try and close up the distance. Where can they find that little bit of time? As it's now flat out to push a little bit harder, seeing if they can try and close up to the rest of the field, with one driver sitting and waiting in pit lane. That's Peter de Villiers, who has got his hazards on and will be waiting to be released from pit lane to ensure he stays a solid run. Ulrich Diaga a little bit further down, just trying to put the power down early on and see if he can open up some distance. Sean Loureiro as well, navigating his way through, as now they're reaching the halfway mark of this huge circuit, and a couple of drivers still keeping their foot firmly on the gas at the moment. They're trying to push themselves out a little bit more. Bit of a discussion going and happening, and it looks like the Griffin Sim Racing team opting that they're going to push a bit harder. They're going to try and open up the distance, get to the top, slow the pace right down. They don't want to have the tires getting too cold at the moment. They don't want to have everything going and landing up in a world of hurt. Ruin Heineke as well, just waiting with the rest of the field. There's Anthony Modetu, was a little bit slow off the start on the rolling lap. Now just trying to navigate his way through, feeling out the car, feeling out the course at this stage of the game, and also hoping that that's going to help him a little bit further up the field. One of the top runners so far in our pace lap is Sean Loureiro, leading out everyone at this stage of the game, and you can hear absolutely flat out. He is not backing off. He is trying to just close up any little bit of distance, seeing if it's going to help him out. As we jump on board, you can see up into fourth gear, a little bit of a lift, 170 kilometers now, 75, 80, nearly to 200 kilometers now, down to second, practicing those racing lines at the moment, seeing if it's going to help him out as he heads through to the carousel. We stay on board with him as he gets closer and closer towards the start finish line. He will have to wait and allow the field to catch up to him, much like Jason Farmer needing to do so. Anyone that's out of position come the start of this race will have to serve drive-through penalty, and that unfortunately will be a negative impact to the race, as suddenly your lap time will go from 8 minutes heading towards 11 minutes just by traveling through the pits. And considering they do have a mandatory pit stop to serve as well, last thing you want to do is visit the pit lane twice during this race. With an hour and 30 minutes of racing, your lap time sitting at 8 minutes 16 as your quickest, done by Jason Farmer during qualifying with a lighter fuel load. Oh, Sean Loureiro getting out of shape, and he's into the wall on the pace lap. Pushed it a little too hard, got a little too confident, and that means he is going to be sporting a little bit of damage on the car early on before the race has even gone green. And that is the problem when you start trying to make up that little bit of time, when you're starting to push a little too hard, and unfortunately do land up in a world of trouble. That being said, you've got to be very, very wide awake on this. You don't want to be caught out. And unfortunately, we've got one driver that's literally gone and hurt the car before he even started this race. So not what he wanted to have. And will be going and thinking, not my game plan in there. And I'll have to think, what do I need to do to aim a little bit more forward, as our drivers trying to give it that extra little bit of a run, seeing where they go and how are they going to close up the difference. Where are they going to be able to stand at the top, especially as we now start to get back towards our start finish line. A quick one about our sponsors, as we've got Oxford Distributors going and being part of our series. Massive welcome to them. Your one-stop shop car parts supplier, bumpers, headlights, fenders, mechanical parts and more at unbeatable prices with nationwide delivery. Head over to oxfordparts.co.za to go and order your next part with a wide variety from Mini, Mitsubishi, Nissan, Opel, Peugeot, Renault, Toyota, Volkswagen, so many more. Thousands of parts in stock nationwide. Our sponsor going and helping out to bring us the show out on YouTube here in Sim Racing South Africa. One of the pillars of sim racing in South Africa as one of the main leagues that drivers, if you want to make a bit of history, you come to race with us and out on simGP. So feel free to go and take a look at for us on simGP, be a part of the show, and also find us in the description below the video here to join up with our Discord to meet up with like-minded individuals that are petrol heads at heart. Now, our drivers on to the back straight, trying to get themselves all sorted out, and finally down that highway straight that they've been trying to close up the distance. They were going a little bit flat out, see what they can do. Unfortunately, Loureiro taking a little bit of a knock on the car too early on, felt it. Ulrich Diaga now just trying to keep himself going. Will look behind him, seeing that Jason Farmer and Loureiro a little bit further back as the field starts to close up that little bit of time. And where exactly can they get the jump? Now, it's all about maximizing a bit of heat into the tires, maximizing a bit into the brakes, and ensuring they're in for a solid run. As the drivers now have to get into race mode, they have to think about, okay, we just had our pace lap. We just felt out the circuit. I just got to feel what 170 corners, well, a couple less than that, how it all feels, and where are they going to be maximizing the drive. Unfortunately, some of the drivers opting that they are so sick and tired of waiting, they're just going flat out regardless of it, and that is Lebert Meinkies, who is going and standing on the gas early on, Wimpy Meinkies as well, and one car that charged through and now just trying to get up to the rest of the pack as Louis Tricot a little bit further adrift in 20th division position. Now we've also got De Villiers, who will start from pit lane, and we'll have to wait for the entire field to go through and see what is it going to be. Everyone has watched what happens to our top runners. Everyone will be looking forward to a solid race. The question is, can they keep a solid run? It's going to be a hard one. It's going to be a lot to think about, and our drivers looking to stay at the top. Where exactly they're going to get that little bit more pace underneath him is yet to be seen, as now they start to round off. They'll start to break away from our main Nordschleife circuit. Bit of brake drag, bit of heat into the tires, and I do suspect a couple of drivers suffering with their fuel load that they didn't quite plan on doing an entire huge lap, around 25 kilometers. And you can see it is Ruben Heineke to bring the pace right down as he tries to close up to Jason Farmer, who's at a near standstill, just trying everything he can to drag the brakes, trying to build up any sort of temperature in those tires to get a start that's going to work out for him. Unfortunately for Kruger, also going to be starting from pit lane. Not ideal with De Villiers, as they will allow the field to come through. Ulrich Diaga waiting for the rest of the field. He had a quick run and now just trying to see if he can get it going. Does not want to suffer a penalty. Does come to a stop on the race circuit itself. Sean Loureiro also crawling around. Farmer at an absolute crawl. Hazard lights on. And this is on pit limiter, I would suspect. Nope, not even pit limiter. He's just taking it properly slow, trying to bunch up the field and allowing everyone to make a bit of headway, as it's almost a parking lot out on the track at the moment, with many of the drivers trying to figure out what is going to be the game plan here. And unfortunately, Wimpy Meinkies is our first disqualification out of this race. So Wimpy Meinkies, out of position, is disqualified out of the race, and I think he was a little too quick out there and felt it. So many of the drivers just trying to figure out what they can do. It's a long lap, and I think everyone just slightly out of position at this stage of the game. Jason Farmer a bit slow, waiting for everything to catch up, and is the leader of the pack. But looks like a number of drivers just feeling it, and unfortunately a very, very, very slow running, as no one able to get a solid move at the moment. This is unprecedented and not exactly what anyone wants to be feeling at the moment. I mean, this is first gear off throttle as we listen in for Jason Farmer's car. It's a parking lot. He's on the brakes. What on earth is going on? And not quite the way you want to start this race. Farmer holding position, much like the rest of the field at the moment. No one budging. Lorero, nope. Ulrich Diaga, Jason Farmer, Rune Heineke, Anthony Moritz, all just parked. No one going to be pulling the trigger. This is a bit of a weird setup, folks. Unfortunately, it looks like the long lap has now just gone and turned everything on its head. Farmer trying to get a little bit of a rolling start, just waiting to see if he can get going. The whole field now onto the GP circuit, just waiting to go racing. I mean, are they waiting for the sim? I would presume the sim is going to be trying and give them a little bit of a green light, but is it because the field is too far apart? Well, Trekart is joined there. The others are in the pits. This is a strange state of affairs, folks, for the entirety of the grid. I think most of the people are a little bit lost here, trying to listen to what the sim is telling them. And I suspect not much is on the main run. So we're stopped at the line, folks, and waiting to try and figure out what exactly is going to be happening, and drivers are a little bit confused on what's happening. This is a absolute lockup. Strange, as no one's budging, and I do think the sim itself is a bit out of place. So Farmer waiting to get going. Lorero as well. Ulrich Diaga gave a quick flash, trying to say, okay, what's our game plan here, guys? We've got to be moving forward at some stage of the game. The race is yet to start. And all the cars waiting. Okay, well, that being said, a little bit of a loss at this stage of the game, and trying to figure out what exactly is going on. I know our admin as well will be taking a look. So far, Vimpy Mankey's with a DQ, De Villiers in the pits, Kruger also in the pit lane, and a couple of drivers just sitting in pit lane. I wonder, and I do point this one out, is these two are sitting at the end of pit lane. They have not gone into the pit box, so technically they're still out on track, and they did a half lap while the grid did a full lap. So Kruger is still waiting, and De Villiers as well. These two need to actually get into the pit box to allow the cars to carry on going. But they have done a half stop. They're waiting at the end of pit lane. And I do suspect that is what we have right now. The sim itself is picking up two cars that went a little too far. Okay. Right. So if anyone has contact with Hannes Kruger and Peter De Villiers, I do think these two might need to just go and reset back to pits and then restart from pit lane. And that will allow the field to move through. At the moment, they're just burning fuel. The entire field is burning fuel. So a bit of communication going amongst the drivers to our admin to try and solve what exactly is a stuck point. And around here, I do suspect that's our problem. These two Ferraris that did a half lap, they're waiting for the grid to catch up. And everyone just revving the motors. I mean, this is a interesting state of affairs, to say the least, folks. Not quite sure what exactly is going on. Kruger was able to set the fastest lap time, fastest top end with 267 kilometers an hour when he was out on track. But frustration is mounting out there. And Ulrich Diaga opting there, he's going to just roll forward. So is Loureiro. All deciding they're going to get going. Everyone getting a drive through. So with that being said, they were all out of position, waiting to try and get going. And eventually everyone decided, just get going, stand on the power. And now it's Ulrich Diaga, Loureiro, Farmer, Heineke, Chris Heineke, Chris and Ruan Heineke, Robertson, like everyone, now needing to serve a drive-through as we race underway. And this has just changed the entire race itself. Robinson getting ahead of Sean Loureiro, who is now tailing on behind. He's just having overtaken with our Mustang. Everyone trying to now navigate their way around the circuit. Louis Tricot a little bit further back, trying to close up to the rest of the field. There's a couple of drivers out there that have not got a drive-through penalty, and that's the same as Anthony Monitz. He was deemed not out of position. Bernardi van Zyl was deemed that were not out of position. Louis Mankeys, Michael Hassenbrook as well, and a couple of other drivers, unfortunately, not having the best of runs. But it is Jason Farmer that leads out the pack, deciding, stuff it, I'm going to put my foot down and go to try and break away from the field. And we'll see what he can do. Hannes Kruger trying to make his way around. Got a little bit of damage on his nose as well, as he's trying to pull himself back in towards the race. Ruan Heineke fighting out against Chris Heineke as the Ferrari and Aston Martin duo fight their way through. They currently hold on to second position. And third, Chris waiting for his time. They will try and navigate their way around the circuit. Ulrich Diaga as well. Robertson a little bit further back, as we are now under full flight conditions. And drivers with a drive-through penalty will need to be served plus their main pit. So, bit of a challenge coming in, and a unique one due to a, well, I would say the game sounding a little bit on the weirder side. Sean Skitter ahead of Jason Luck, who tries to keep ahead of Anthony Monitz at the moment. And Michael Hassenbrook trying to close up the distance behind, seeing if he can go a little bit late on the brakes. Skitter moving up through the order. Remember, wasn't able to get a time on the board and now sits in 10th position. He's trying to close up to Van Zyl ahead of him. Chris Van Zyl, who has got Gomez ahead of him. Timothy Gomez, who wants to keep a solid drive. Skitter now looks to go around the outside of Van Zyl. It is side by side between the two. It's going to be who has got the bravest line, and it looks like Sean Skitter. Oh, a contact between the two of them. Skitter hard into the wall. So is Van Zyl. Both of them trying to rejoin the circuit. Big impact. And unfortunately, that is them bouncing across the circuit. Skitter hit hard, and now will need to do a lot of repair work to his car as he gets overtaken by the field. Here comes Kylian Bernardi. Unfortunately, also gets it wrong as he tried to avoid Skitter. Gets knocked in against the wall. Unfortunately, he's got a bit of damage. Skitter comes to a stop at the end of the circuit, as now Bernardi trying to hold back Swart, who's coming back at him at a rate of knots for 16th position. Back up towards the top. It is Chris Heineke onto the back of Ruan Heineke, fighting out as hard as they can, seeing what exactly can they do to stay at the sharp end of the field. They got Ulrich Diaga tailing on the back of him. Wilfred Robertson as well. Sean Loureiro a little bit further back. Remember, he took damage early on in this race, and that was actually on our pacing lap that he went into the wall, lost a little bit of control. Unfortunately, that took a big chunk out of his nose and will affect the aero down the main straight. Anthony Monitz trying to close up to Chris Van Zyl, who was in a solid fight, and it's Anthony goes off circuit. All the tires are ice cold, and big impact for Monitz. Big impact into the wall for Monitz, and that is a pony going to the glue factory. Monitz with a monstrous impact. Unfortunately, couldn't keep the car on the circuit, and now getting overtaken by the field. Not a race that he wanted. And unfortunately, a couple of drivers getting a hard impact. Wimpy Mankies, who's got a disqualification, is just circulating at this stage of the game. He's just enjoying the drive as he waits it out as Hannes Kruger comes and looks for his way to get round. Kruger with a bit of damage to the sharp end of his car, now trying to see if he can catch up to Peter de Villiers, who holds on to that 19th position. So a bit of an unorthodox start, but it looks like a few drivers feeling the impact early on. Wilfred Robertson and Sean Loureiro fighting it out between one another, nose to tail, as they try to catch up to Ulrich Diaga, trying to see if they can get into the toe. They will be serving a drive-through penalty. Our top 10 will be in the drive-through, top 9, as Sean Skitter, unfortunately, into the pits with that major damage to his car, and will be out of the running. And unfortunately, it is also going to be Bernardi, Swart, and Mankies, who are, well, Mankies is unfortunately, Wimpy Mankies is unfortunately disqualified. There'll be Bernardi and Swart, who will be sporting a drive-through penalty as well. Michael Hassenbrook and Chris Van Zale, they're going to be looking and rubbing their hands together, as they do not have to serve a drive-through penalty, as the sim deemed they were not out of position. Loureiro hoping to catch up to Robertson late on the brakes as they make their way through the carousel for the first time in anger, and immediately trying to get on the power as, oh, that's a big mistake coming in for Loureiro. He was able to just catch that car and only just keep it alive, but not quite what he wanted to have, as Robertson now tailing on to the back of Ulrich Diaga, the LNR, chasing down the Griffin Sim Racing charge further up through the field. Not quite what they wanted here, and now it's going to be Wilfred Robertson hoping that he can keep on the back of them. Skitter and Monitz into the pits with major damage to their car, and unfortunately will be slipping down the order on this one. Mankies and Bernardi trying to move forward. Francis Bernardi in the Bernardi Alphabet Racing Aston Martin, number 13. You can see a bit of scuffles on the side as he tried moving up through the order. Chris Van Zale and Michael Hassenbrook also keeping each other rather busy as it's nose to tail at this stage of the game. No one moving forward, and big impact for the BMW. Michael Hassenbrook into the wall. Hassenbrook into the wall. Let's quickly go back 30 seconds and find out what exactly happened. Did the tail get snapped out from a curb? Did the ice cold tires come into effect? Well, as he makes his way around the circuit, trying to keep it all together, the BMW looking all put together, looks a little bit of a tail snap. He's able to get it, and oh, just lost the rear end. Hard impact against the wall, nearly a rollover, was able to save it, but unfortunately picking up a bit of damage on that BMW, and now trying to pull himself back from the brink at this stage of the game, as, oh, it's Gomez, unfortunately, also getting a bit of a problem. That's Timothy Gomez, who's got some major impact to his nose and will need to get that repaired as well. So a number of drivers feeling the impact on the early start to the race, and now having to try and pick up the pieces. Kurt Swart trying to catch up to Gideon ahead of him. Gideon keeps on the power and not going to be losing that little bit of time, hoping that he can try and tail up to Timothy, who has got a bit of damage. Wouldn't know that there was a yellow flag, but not quite sure whether it's going to impact him. So far, Jason Farmer down the back straight, more than happy to keep himself going. Has got a monstrous lead of 8 seconds to the rest of the field. Will have to serve a drive-through penalty with an hour and 21 minutes of racing. It's still a long race ahead, with all our drivers trying to think what is going to be the right idea, as he's the first car to come off the Nordschleife, now continues down the straight. He's got 3 laps to serve that drive-through penalty, and he is opting not to get it done now as Wilfred Robertson dives into pit lane. Ruben Heineke and Chris Heineke, along with Ulrich Diaga, deciding they're going to go a little bit longer. Sean Loureiro as well. Robertson into the pits. It is going to be Tyron Myberg diving down into the pits as well. Will it be Jason Luck? He follows suit to try and get rid of that drive-through penalty, and hoping that's going to help him out as Francis Bernardi carries on a bit of momentum. He does not need to pull in the pits. He will continue his way through, but unfortunately has got a problem as Louis Mankies tries to look down the inside. Couldn't quite get it done. That Ferrari late on the brakes, trying to see if it can carry the momentum through. The 11 not able to get the run, navigating the way through turn 1, turn 2, into turn 3, coming through the Mercedes on the outer part of the Mercedes arena, and it is going to be managing to hook that pass and now carrying a bit more momentum with him. Vimpy Monkey's a little bit further back, trying to just keep a solid drive at the moment. Also moving forward, Gideon into the pits to serve his drive through. So is Timothy. There's a number of drivers trying to get rid of that drive through early on and then focus on the rest of their race. Timothy, parked in the box, will be doing a bit of repair work to his car instead of doing the drive through. Try and get that car sorted out after a hard impact against the wall in the early stages of this race. Not quite the race that everyone wanted to have, but everyone hoping to really keep a solid run. Jason Luck in 13th position, keeps on to the back of Trickart ahead of him. Louis Trickart not going to be backing down from the front, hoping to keep his elbows out at the moment, seeing whether he can keep a solid drive. And ahead of them, Tyrone Myberg in the Ford Mustang wants to keep them both at bay. Wilfred Robinson, who came out after an early pit stop, remember he was part of the top 5. He now sits in 10th position and tries to claw his way back into fighting contention. Our timing tower a little bit slow at the moment, but will be keeping a very close eye on that, as Timothy will be the very first of the drivers to complete their pit stop and will now need to only serve a drive-through penalty, but that was after doing a bit of repair work to his car and ensuring that he can keep a solid bit of momentum. Luck tails Trickart on the way through, not getting caught out. Vimpy, unfortunately, coming to a stop, and his race ended on a DSQ. Trickart running out a little bit wide. Luck coming back at him. Try to see if he could go and sneak around the outside. Unfortunately, couldn't quite get it done. Has to wait out that little bit longer as Trickart, once again, running out a bit wide, seeing if he can keep it all together. As we take a look to the side of the car, all looking rather clean, but he is running it very close to the wall, and that's not ideally helping him. And you can see the difference in pace by just slowing the car down as Luck gets it out of shape. Jason Luck loses the car and stops dead in the middle. Jason Luck having to reverse, trying to look where the rest of the drivers are. Thankfully, not beaching the car. He's able to continue on the drive, but unfortunately that has thrown him way off the pack. Peter de Villiers of the Quaco team now trying to close up the distance, seeing what's going to help him out, and it's going to be Hannes Kruger into the pit lane, and unfortunately not having an easy time out there. A couple of drivers early on have got a major impact to the race. A couple of drive-throughs still to be served. It's going to be Jason Farmer, Ruben Heineke, Chris Heineke, Ulrich Diaga, Loureiro, Timothy Gomez, Claret Swart, and Sean Skitter yet to do their last, well, to do the drive-throughs and then can concentrate on their pit stop. Sean Loureiro trying to keep the pressure on to Ulrich Diaga, the two BMW drivers, working with one another, but Loureiro sustained that little bit of damage, will not have the top end to help him out. Kruger getting his pit stop done and dusted, retakes the circuit and will try and continue on through. So not an easy drive out there for some of our drivers with early damage, but all now thinking, right, it's not quite what we wanted, it's not quite the race we needed, but it is round 2 and points are critical. So now, if you got dealt a bit of a bad hand, you've got to make it worth the drive. You've got to make it work in your favor. Sometimes you roll the snake eyes, but it's all about whether you're going to stay at the table and if you're going to look at scoring all the points. A drop round is on the cards, but I do think many of these drivers are opting that this can't be their drop round. They need to make it work regardless at the moment, as we do see our Aston Martin of Bernardi trying everything he can. Francis Bernardi has got Chris Van Zyl tailing on the back of him. The two of them not leaving each other any bit of room here, and Francis hoping to try hold the inside line and managing to get it done. The Aston Martin V8 AMR trying everything at this stage of the game to hold back the much newer car of the Ferrari 296 behind him. He has got a little bit more understeer than his mid-engine counterparts that are out on circuit with him, but will be opting, hang on, let's keep this drive, let's keep moving forward and see how we can stay at the top, with everyone looking to move forward. Who is going to have the solid run up through the order? Once the drive-throughs are out of the way, then we're on to our pit stops, where drivers can manage that pace. They can close the differences onto one another. Oh, and there is impact between Trichard and Luck. Unfortunately, both catching the wall. Let's see if we could see what exactly happened. As go to interior. This is Luck. As he navigates his way around, did he find Trichard in the wall through a blind corner, or did he lose the rear end of the car? So keeps it all in check, and oh, big impact! There we go. Trichard in a blind corner, unfortunately trying to turn that car around, and Jason Luck T-boning the door, getting a monster impact, and now needing a fair amount of work done to his Porsche. Will be trying to bring it back, and on his pit stop is going to be some major repair work needed. Trichard, unfortunately, going and taking a monster hit into the door. Goes and tows it back into the pit. So Louis Trichard, not exactly what he wanted, and unfortunately parked in the middle of the circuit. Jason Luck came around the blind corner, a hard impact, and that is all she wrote for our driver that now needs to try and pick up the pieces during the course of this race. Peter de Villiers catches up to Gideon Barani as the two fight out, currently for 14th and 15th position. Gideon up into 14, trying to open up that distance a little bit more in the Lexus, as Peter trying to tail him at this stage of the game. No one getting a solid run on one another at the moment. Everyone just trying to maintain the pace, trying to figure out what they can do to stay out at the sharp end of the field. Tyron Myberg fighting it out against Francis Bernardi. Two of them both going and doing whatever they can, both with monstrous V8s underneath their right foot that they can utilize upwards of 500 horsepower. And at the moment, Francis Bernardi just battling with that understeer, as he does have Tyron Myberg opening up the gap a little bit more, trying to see where exactly can he try close the distance to the massive Mustang ahead of him. That is now opening up a solid gap, 1.67 seconds between the two of them, as that did look like Bernardi running in a little bit wide and nearly catching the wall. Another good fight happening out on circuit, as we do see Chris Heineke trying to catch up to Ruben Heineke, and right behind them Ulrich de Jager trying to hold his ground. Will be tailing through as they come in towards pit lane, and that is going to be Chris Heineke and Ulrich de Jager to get a pit stop, and a little bit close for Ulrich de Jager. He's able to slow the car down, but Kenny the board getting absolutely taken out, and not quite a Max Verstappen pass, and a little bit of contact with the wall for Ulrich de Jager. He tried getting a little bit quicker into the pits, unfortunately getting a slight ding on the door, and now both of our drivers into the pits, drag racing in a drive-through. Yeah, no, who's going to be first on the button, because there's only a little bit of straightaway, and it's going to be Chris Heineke as Ulrich de Jager just opts to lift that little bit more. They've now served their drive-through and can continue on with the rest of the race. Jason Farmer, Ruben Heineke, and Sean Loureiro yet to do their drive-through penalties. Timothy Gomez, along with Sean Skitter, Gerrit Swart as well. So a couple of drivers still needing to figure out that little bit more pace and see where exactly they can stay up in towards the order. And also, with only two cars at the moment that have done their pit stops, that is Timothy Gomez out in 15th position, has completed his pit stop, and also a bit of repair work on the car after a monstrous impact early on, and he's just trying to keep himself going at the moment, not wanting to get called out. It's about rhythm at this stage of the game. 25 kilometers, lots to think about, but also where are you going to make up that time, as we do see Francis Bernardi into the pits, and that is also Michael Hassenbrook into the pits as well. They trying to get their pit stops out of the way to continue on with the race. So far, Jason Farmer leads out the field, 2 seconds slower than his qualifying time, as his last lap time was the quickest, so the 8 minutes 18 seconds .1. He's hoping to try and make it work out a little bit further down the road, seeing if he can try and make it work out a little bit better for him. However, it's going to be a run for our drivers to stay at the sharp end of the field. and who will be the top runner come the end of the race. I mean, this is going to be a huge run, and a big talking point for many of these drivers. Gomez still needing to do that drive-through penalty, along with Sean Skitter, who is still out on track. Skitter, after an impact early on in the race and not being able to get a qualifying time in, tries to make up some time out on circuit. Will need to do the drive-through because he did tow back to pits, and will need to do a mandatory pit stop to get it out of the way. So a nightmare case for Skitter, our championship leader. Gert Swart a little bit further down in 19th position, trying to play a little bit of catch up, as every single one of these drivers just opting what can they do to make a situation that wasn't quite the greatest at the start now work in their favor, and who exactly can they stay in the fight with. Tyron Myberg a little bit further down the order as he tries to keep up with that top 10 position. He's going after Wilfred Robertson, as they do see Van Zyl minding out of the way. Van Zyl just keeps a solid right hand, and now it's going to leave Myberg up into 8th position as he keeps up with Liebe Mankies. Both of them managing to get the pass on Van Zyl, and now just tailing each other, trying to see where exactly can they get that solid run, as it's going to be side by side with likes of Tyron able to straight line. Mankies lifting off the throttle, allowing to come through, going and thinking the better part on survival instead of race mode, saying, right, go ahead of me, I'm not too phased at the moment, it's all about rhythm, and I don't want you on my tail. I know that Van Zyl had a little bit of a problem earlier, and it will be a threat later on. However, going and taking that little bit of caution to give yourself a bit of breathing room is what the drivers need to do critically to ensure they at a safe running order, to ensure they stay at the top. The question is, how far are they willing to push it here tonight for round 2 of the simGT3 Championship, Season 2 of 2026, right here on Sim Race South Africa. Jason Farmer leads with Ruben Heineke in second, Sean Loureiro in third, Chris Heineke in fourth, Ulrich Diaga in fifth position, with Wilfred Robertson in sixth. It is a top running order for our Griffin Sim Racing team, with Wilfred Robertson, our logistical nightmare driver, served his drive-through penalty, which was given to majority of the drivers on the start of the race due to a couple of drivers being out of position. And unfortunately, I do suspect that was for the 2 Ferraris that did half a lap and did not complete the full lap around the circuit. They waited in at the back of pit lane, and that's got the field caught out with those drive-through penalties, as they did not complete a full lap around the circuit, and that unfortunately makes a rather big difference out on a circuit like this. It was slow going for a number of the drivers off the start, and now tires starting to build up temperature, and also as the track starts to get a little bit warmer for our drivers, they will be focusing on a solid run. Unfortunately, no one within arm's reach of one another, and now they're just opting to keep the momentum going, trying to see what is going to be the best run for them and how far can they push their way up through the field, and who's going to be able to carry the momentum by the end of the race, who's going to stand at the top. Now with the GT3s, it is all momentum based. You turn the traction control up, turn the ABS up, save those tires a little bit longer, seeing if that can help you out. And also, come the pit stop, it is a mandatory, but you have to put 1 liter of fuel in. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to change your tires. These drivers unfortunately caught out with their pit stop, going and landing up with a bit of an issue, now having to try and make up a little bit of time and see if they can close up around the order. So our GT3s doing a stellar run. Now, to give you a bit of an idea on what is the fastest lap time you can get around here, and it was actually done in 2023 in the 24 hours of the Nürburgring, with the likes of Daniel Kilwitz in the Ferrari 296 GT3. He did an 8 minute 8 seconds 0.0, so an 8 minute 8 around the track to ensure he stays at the top running order, and that is in full flight in a race for the 24-hour. Jason Farmer, who currently leads out the field, holds the quickest lap time thus far as he makes his way down the back straight and pulling Gert right behind him. Gert Swart in the Mustang just keeps a very close eye and seeing if he can keep in the tow. Jason Farmer hoping to get into that 8-minute 8 and will be looking to try and take out 10 seconds in his lap time. Unfortunately, it's going to be a bit of a tough one. He's got a monstrous gap to Ruben Heineke, who is now 16.7 seconds behind and trying to close up that distance. 5 seconds behind him is Sean Loureiro, 28 seconds behind him is Chris Heineke. Ulrich Diaga, 1.8 seconds behind that. Wilfred Robertson, 16.3. With Louis Meintjes sitting in 8th position, 16 seconds adrift as well. So a number of drivers not able to go and close up the distance that little bit further, and a few drivers considering their options. Jason Farmer pulling into the pits, and I do think the radio call-out will be going to the Griffin Sim Racing team of, right, let's get these top 3 cars into the pits, get that drive-through done, and try and concentrate to get the pit stop sorted out, as we do see Ruben Heineke diving into pit lane, and I do suspect Sean Loureiro will be following suit as well. They had 3 laps to get the pit stop done, well, the drive-through done and dusted, and all 3 managed to get themselves sorted out. But it does leave 2 drivers in the same stable, Chris Heineke and Ulrich Diaga, to try and get their pit stops done. And also, they served their drive-through a little bit earlier on in this race. They had the drag race down the pit lane. Now, they can look to try and retake the lead as Jason Farmer has just gone from bad to worse, sped in pit lane, and now has a stop-go 30-second penalty as well, which he will have to serve. And that just, once again, puts a negative impact on his run. Ruben Heineke has completed his drive-through penalty with Chris Heineke on the back of him. Ulrich Diaga fights it out against Loureiro as he tries to keep a solid bit of momentum. The 2 BMWs now going to be duking it out, but it's a nightmare for Jason Farmer. A stop-go 30-second penalty for speeding in pit lane has now just compromised him, and he has to open up a solid 30 seconds on top of what he was going to do for his pit stop to be done and dusted. And that is a nightmare scenario. That is a absolute nightmare, as he's going to have to open up nearly a minute to the drivers behind him to ensure that he can protect himself from that stop go, plus get his mandatory pit stop out of the way if he changes tire. And Loureiro, oh, big tank slapper coming out as he went over the dirt, trying to catch up to Ulrich Diaga. Wilfred Robertson holds on to 6th place at the moment. So the only drivers still yet to do the drive-through penalties that they need to get done is Timothy Gomez, who will be looking at it rather shortly, as they have to do it within 3 laps, and this is the 2nd lap that he is on, and he currently sits in 14th position. Sean Skitter will need to get his one sorted out, along with Gert Swart a little bit further down, who's made a big mistake, and that has allowed Anthony Moritz to come past. So Anthony, once again, now managing to grab a few positions after a solid impact against the wall early on, gets a little bit of a slide. He's able to keep the car in check and continues the momentum forward. He's now opting to just run that a little bit harder, see where it's going to help him out, as Chris Van Zyl dives into the pit lane to try to get his pit stop done and dusted. Looks like Jason Luck as well trying to get his pit stop out of the way, as they want to be ahead of this Aston Martin. And that's Francis Bernardi now make his way off the back straight, diving towards our pit straight, and he is getting chased down by the BMW of Michael Hassenbrook, who still needs to do his pit stop. So this is going to be an interesting one. Francis holds on and wants to be the leader of everyone that has done their pit stop, will be overtaking Van Zyl and Luck through the pits, and now keeps a solid charge on till the very end. Michael Hassenbrook holding on to the back of him, not wanting to lose out that little bit of a drive, trying to see what exactly is going to help him out here. Chris Van Zyl and Jason Luck yet to exit pit lane. Sean Loureiro and Ulrich Diaga still pushing each other a little bit harder. Both drivers going and fighting it out left and right, trying to see what exactly can they do to stay in for the run. And it's going to be Ulrich Diaga holding on to 4th place, with Loureiro trying to tail him at this moment, trying to see Where exactly can he get the pass done? Both in the same stable, but rest assured, folks, Papaya Rules is just a little thing. It's a footnote for the Griffin Sim Racing team. They will fight each other out tooth and nail. That has seen them tangle wheels in the past in many different series around the world. Now they're trying to just help each other a little bit along as they're closing up to Chris Heineke in the Aston Martin further up the road. Also opening up the gap to Wilfred Robertson, 19 seconds away from them as Loureiro trying to go a little bit late on the brakes. Ulrich Diaga continues to hold the line, does not want to get caught out, continues to see what can he do to try and keep it all together. As Ulrich Diaga continues a solid drive, not wanting to be caught out. And you can see how this track has got undulations of note. Late on the brakes, swings the car through the left-hander. Third gear on the power, got to be rather quick, got to be comfortable and calm. And Loureiro a little bit further back, starting to get that error wash. You can see the car getting rather unsteady underneath him, not helping him out, and having to figure out, okay, listen, this is not quite going to plan. I'm going to have to see if we can push a little bit more. Luck and Finsale still in pit lane, as big mistake coming in for Loureiro, and managing to just save the car, only just as he bounced across in the grass. Not quite what he wanted to have happen, and unfortunately landing up in a bit of a problem. And we've got another disqualification coming in for Jason Luck. And yeah, Jason, unfortunately, I think sped in pit lane, and that has taken him out of the running. I wonder if Finsale has got the same problem, because he is just sitting in pit lane. If he gets rolling, does that mean that he's also got a disqualification? Because we did see the pit board getting taken out as Ulrich Diaga was a little too quick into the pits, and unfortunately nearly ran into the back of his own teammate on that. And unfortunately that knocked out the 50-kilometer board. I do think a couple of drivers getting caught out by that, as they didn't quite plan. They were looking for a board that is gone and weren't keeping an eye on the painted lines on the ground. Ruben Heineke holds on second place as he makes his way through the carousel at this stage of the game, exiting a little bit high, feeling it out there. But one of the drivers that's had a solid run at the moment, and that is Bernardi, who's now caught up to stablemate ahead of him, Gideon, dealing with Francis, who is right on the back of him. You could just also see Michael Hassenbrook, who is a lap down in the BMW, holds on for a stellar charge, not wanting to be caught out at this stage of the game, and will be waiting for his time to just keep it going. And we'll be seeing a number of drivers running into a bit of a problem early on in this race, and slowly but surely can start racking up a bit of time. Gideon minds out of the way, allows Francis to come through. Michael Hassenbrook takes the dive as well, not wanting to get caught out, and now says thank you very much on that one. Good move to try and mind out of the way for the Lexus, and allows the BMW, Michael Hassenbrook, who is on a recovery drive at this stage of the game, wanting to see if it can work out in his favor. Finsale still in pits. Skitter now into the pits as well. And Sean Skitter looks like he is doing his stop, and that is for damage on the car. So Skitter in that number 10, unfortunately, might have caught the wall and is feeling it. So not an ideal time for the number 10. It looks like he got planted into the wall, or made a critical error. That has seen him now getting some major repair work to the nose of that Honda NSX. And what a race to forget for him. From leading the championship to visiting in pit lane twice thus far with major damage to the nose. Chris Heineke trying to close up the difference to Ruben Heineke ahead of him, with Ulrich Diaga starting to mount a bit of a charge on the back of him. Chris Finsale with a stop-go 30-second penalty as well. That is not going to be a good run for him. Unfortunately, Finsale will now have to revisit the pits and serve that stop-go 30-second penalty. Skitter getting his car sorted out, will need to continue with the drive-through, so smack the wall twice, now needing to complete a drive-through, and this has all played into the hands of Francis Bernardi, who was one of our earliest stops. Now just keeping it consistent, and all he needs to do to get it into a top 10 is just keep the rhythm for the next 56 minutes of this race. And so far our drivers starting to feel the pressure, starting to see what exactly is going on, and not quite what they want this race to be like. So a solid run, as we do have Jason Farmer into the pits, going to be doing his pit stop along with his penalty of a stop-go 30-second penalty, and that is going to be a nightmare case for him. So dives into the pits, holds in his box, trying to square it up, and does see one of our Mustangs ahead of him, and will be thinking, right, not quite what I had in plan. Chris Heineke diving into the pits. He has also got Swart tailing in behind him, and take a look at Swart's nose. Massive impact to the nose. I mean, this is not an easy run for him. Now having to do a drive-through, a fix, and a full pit stop as well. Mustang a little bit second-hand after that impact. Jason Farmer from a solid lead now falls down. Tyron Myberg waiting in pit lane as well, as Wilfred Robertson up into 4th position. Pitted early to get the drive-through done. Now looks to continue on the race as he catches up to Sean Rivera, Ulrich Diaga, and Ruben Heineke, who have now inherited 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And Robertson in 4th position has managed to break away from Jason Farmer, who exits pit lane, still needing to serve his penalty and also pit stop. Was he skew in the box that didn't allow him to have a good run? And there it is. Jason Farmer throws the car around. Nightmare case scenario, cold tires, and I do think he was not squared in the box perfectly. They had to lift him on the jacks, move him across, drop him down, put him back into his run, and unfortunately means that the pit stop did not count for him. I mean, this is a monumental race at this stage of the game. It has been an interesting one, and drivers now having to compete with red mist going all over and trying to see what exactly helps him out. Chris Heineke with a stop-go 30-second penalty as well. That's not going to be helping him out for speeding in pit lane. A number of drivers going and pushing a little too hard too early on, and unfortunately missing out and getting off the button a little bit too early, or maybe coming into the pits just a little too hot as well. So we catch up to our ongoing battle between the BMWs as Sean Lavero and Ulrich Diaga, 0.5 of a second between them, the stablemates now trying to fight it out for the top, both needing to do their last pit stop that is absolutely mandatory, and also seeing the rest of the drivers scoring stop-go 30-second penalties will be a little bit more cautious. Both drivers have gotten rid of their drive-through penalties. However, they are going to fight it between one another, and it's going to be Ulrich Diaga to close the door on Larero, ensuring he slams it shut and allows himself to move a little bit more forward. Ulrich Diaga holds on 2nd place only just at the moment, with Larero giving everything he's got to try and tail him right into the slipstream. Larero not having an easy time out there, pushing harder and harder as we do see Tyron Myberg back into pit lane. Benoni now managing to climb up into 9th position. The Aston Martin slowly ticking off the order, saying got you, got you, got you, on his way up, as Peter de Villiers will be the next one to see him in the relative. And Peter de Villiers, who was part of the cars that stopped at the end of pit lane, now trying to make his way through. Farmer and Chris Heineke going and landing up with a stop-go 30-second penalty. Both of them now trying to figure out what is going to be the big game plan here. Chris Heineke, who has done his mandatory pit stop, will have to serve the stop-go 30-second, and that's yet another time in the box that is going to compromise him out of the top 10. Chris Van Zyl with a stop-go 30-second penalty. Sean Skitter with a drive-through. Gert Swart as well sits with a drive-through, needing to get it done and dusted. Unfortunately, we have seen 2 disqualifications thus far in this race, and 2 drivers that are going to be sitting on the sidelines trying to figure out what is going on and what can they do to move up through the order. Now, when we talk about what is happening out on circuit, yes, the drivers have had a bad hand, but there's always something out here. If you see the green, you got to see the checkered, and this is if you can do it. It's big mistake coming from Ulrich Diaga, big impact into the wall. He now brings it back. Not quite what he wanted to have. That has given the position to Sean Larero, who sneaks on by, says thank you very much, and squeaks his way through. Ulrich Diaga now needing to try and pick up the pace and also feel the car out. A little bit of repair work going to be needed to both BMWs after that one. Not quite exactly what they wanted to have. So as I was going back, the drivers did get a little bit of a bad hand there. They rolled the dice, they got the snake eyes, it didn't quite work out their way. But like anyone that will tell you, if you get bit of a problem, you land up with a bit of adversity, it's now time to push it. This makes the driver to cement your legacy. Are you going to throw in the towel? Are you going to give up? Are you going to throw your hands up and go, no, I'm done now. This is it. That's the end of my race. I'm not going to continue. Or are you going to give it your best shot to push it right through to the end? There's 6 rounds in this championship here in Sim Race South Africa. It is 6 rounds of some of the best racing out on the circuit, and also some of the best drivers in South Africa to slug it out between one another in our premier division that have been waiting a good couple of weeks after round 1 to come in and fight it out here at the Nürburgring 24-hour layout, one of the hardest circuits in the world that has been a challenge to every single driver. It is one that every single driver wants to get the win at, and here tonight, only one driver will be able to cross that line and call themselves a winner here at the Nürburgring 24-hour layout, out on a set of course to competizione for round 2 of the simGT3 Season 2, Round 2 here for 2026. It's got to be a solid drive from every single one of them, and I know that out in the virtual grandstands our drivers are getting massive support, as we do have a number of drivers that are sitting out from here, those that haven't been able to get behind the wheel, and supporters that are waving the flags up high saying go, 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 see it through to the end, push that little bit more. You see the green, now see the check at 49 minutes to go, and it's all about getting it to the end. A couple of stop-go 30-second penalties that is going to push drivers down the order, drive-through penalties as well, but it is all about making it work, making it that little bit more of a push, and see where exactly you can score a solid win. Try and get yourselves up towards the top, as anything can happen in motorsport. The only certainty that you have in motorsport, in sim racing, is you're going to come off that sim rig. You're going to park your virtual car, whether it's in pieces, whether it's all together, you're going to come off it saying, well, I want to find that extra second, that extra half a second, and I will fight tooth and nail for it, and for that next victory. And that's what separates these drivers from the rest. This is what creates the pros that we currently have out on circuit. It's all about the mindset, the mental game, going and shifting that red mist out of the way, shifting the frustrations out the way, knowing that you have to get the work done. You have to push that little bit more and see where you can make up the time. As Ruben Heineke, Sean Larrea, Ulrich Diaga hold on to the top 3. Wilfred Robertson, big impact with his car, and unfortunately caught into the wall. And Wilfred Robertson now trying to limp that car back. And we talked about driving with adversity. Well, let's take a look at the interior here. Take a look at the steering that is completely skewed, a windscreen that's broken, a bonnet that's in your way, and Wilfred Robertson, despite everything, is going to try and get this car back towards the pit. He's going to get it fixed and head back out onto the circuit, because he's not going to be sipping on wine and cheese if he throws in the towel. He's going to be having a little bit of cactus if he gets it wrong, and not wanting to go and lose that little bit of a drive, as he is Jason Farmer down the inside, up through the second carousel, and continuing his way through. Farmer with a stop-go 30-second penalty, still underhand, and unfortunately that is for speeding in pit lane, either going too fast into the pits or coming off the button a little bit too early. Now making his way through, was leading out the field at the early stages of this race, now trying to pick up the pieces from it and see where exactly he can make it work. As Ruben Heineke dives into the pits, is it going to be Loureiro as well? Yes, it is. And with Ulrich Diaga, Robertson will be definitely diving into the pits. The question is, will Jason Farmer, the stop-go 30-second needed to be done, plus his mandatory pit stop, is he going to get the car sorted out now and continue to the end, seeing the rest of his teammates out there? Wilfred Robertson, who is battling his way through. Come on, Wilfred, you can get that car across the line. Let's see if you can really push it a little bit harder with the Mustang. It's going to be a bit squirrely on the brakes till he can get it into pit lane, but that is going to open up the gap for Chris Heineke. Still has to serve the stop-go 30-second penalty, but has completed his pit stops and is pushing till the very end. Lewis Meinke's Lebert Meinke's a little bit further back in 7th position. Has got Peter de Villiers trying to close up the time. Both needing to do their mandatory pit stop 5 laps in to the circuit, 25.3 kilometers long, 170 corners, and when we say 5 laps, it doesn't sound like much, but when you start working out how long they have been out on the circuit, how long they've been pushing to get that little bit further up through the order, what are they going to do? And so far, the driver that has got the most run out on circuit is Francis Bernardi, who holds on to 9th position. But just as I say that, Rern Heineke out on track has completed all these pit stops and is leading out the charge on everyone that's got their pit stop done. Sean Loureiro, a little too fast on the exit, gets a stop-go 30-second penalty that he's going to have to serve. That's throwing him out of the top 3, with Ulrich de Jager now able to move up into 2nd place when that penalty is applied. Jason Farmer into the pits, Robertson into the pits, Chris Heineke into the pits, and a big move. Rern Heineke, who has so far been sitting going, I'm not quite sure if I'm going to be quick enough, now holds the top of the charts and has got no pressure from his own teammate, Sean Loureiro, who will have a stop-go 30-second going and taking a chunk out of him. Ulrich de Jager, now needing just to keep it all together, will be able to close the distance to his teammate Sean Loureiro and see if he can get involved with that fight. Jason Farmer exits pit lane, served his mandatory pit stop, now needs a stop-go 30-second cleared as he tries to keep going, and a little bit neater this time out as he's able to carry the drive forward. Michael Hassenbrook into the pits will be serving his mandatory pit stop before he can continue on with the race. Chris Heineke, a little bit further down, is in 6th position at the moment and moving up into 5th as Robertson getting his car worked on. Lube Mainkeys, unfortunately, you can see the Ferrari severely damaged after catching the wall, now needing some monstrous repair work to his car. That's going to allow Francis Bernardi to gain yet another swift 2 positions, and moving himself from 9th to 7th is going to be sitting with a smile on his face. Slowly but surely been chipping away at this, and now is looking at a solid run. But can he close the distance to the cars ahead of him? The likes of Peter de Villiers, who is still on a stellar run, needing to do his final pit stop, get it cleared, and will be looking at trying to run a little bit later into this race. 43 minutes to go and 50 seconds. Drivers pushing everything they can. I mean, this is just a monumental run. Everyone trying to see what they can do. And unfortunately, a couple of drivers taking a bit of an impact. Trickart, who was part of an earlier incident, landed up going and getting T-boned, and now trying to see what he can do. Unfortunately, going and losing out a little bit of time. He's still out on circuit. Jason Luck, however, that did T-bone him, came around the black corner and went into the door. Now sits in pit lane with severe damage to his car, and unfortunately Luck saying, well, that's the car, done, dusted, and I have to wait for the next race to try and pick up the pace. So a couple of drivers not having the easiest of racing out here, but this is what the Nordschleife 24-hour layout is all about. It's all about the adversity, the challenge, and also with the blind corners, you've got to be so careful not to run into any problems. You've got to mind your gaps. You got to try and figure out what you can do and keep a solid rhythm as Rern Heineke leads out the field and keeping a stellar drive at the moment. Mainkeys and de Villiers will be looking at one another, with Mainkeys going and waiting to go and get his car sorted out. Mainkeys, and right behind him we do see the Lexus of Kylian Bernardi. Michael Hassenbrook in the BMW waiting to go through, and it's going to be Gomez, unfortunately, with drive-through penalty that he still needs to serve in that Porsche in 11th position. We'll try and get it done and dusted and see if he can get himself back in towards the top 10 as he comes out of the second carousel, a little bit squirrely on the exit, and see what exactly can he do to keep a solid drive at this stage of the game. Number of cars needing to do a pit stop still, and that is going to be Lube Mainkeys along with Peter de Villiers. Anthony Moritz still needing to do his pit stop. The Oxford ATT Racing Mustang was involved in an earlier bang against the wall. Now trying to pick up the pieces from his race, is in 15th position. He's ahead of Gerrit Swart, who unfortunately misses that corner by a country mile. Gets himself back on circuit with no harm, no foul. Little bit of damage to the Mustang, and he is just nursing that front right a little bit and trying to see if he can get to the end. It will be a bit of repair work when he pulls into the pits. I don't think he's going to be just driving it out and dealing with it. I think he's going to try and get it sorted out and clear back on, but still has a drive through to serve as well during the course of this race. And we've got Tyron Myberg a little bit further down. He's in 18th position, keeping a solid drive at this stage of the game. The go slow, going and just maintaining a calm rhythm and hoping that he can keep this car out on track to go that extra mile with 40 minutes and 50 seconds to go. It is a long race still at hand, and the drivers are starting to feel that wear and tear. They will start to feel the pressure, and they'll start to feel the little bit of pain. This is where the physical aspect of sim racing starts to come into play as well, as you start to get a buildup of lactic acid in the legs and in the arms. Now, most of these drivers are running what we call direct drive systems, and they vary from 3 Newton meters all the way up to, I would say, about 30 Newton meters if you're running certain Acetex, or if you're running more commonly, you will be sitting at 5 Newton meters, 9 Newton meters, some opting to run at 21 Newton meters of torque, and that is more torque than what you would get in any of these cars. Maximum amount of Newton meters of torque that you'll get through a steering wheel on GT3 would be, actually not on GT3, it will be with your high aero single seaters back in the 90s and the 80s, was 12 Newton meters of physical peak torque you'll feel through the steering. A little bit less on there for the GT3s, around about 9 Newton meters at worst, because of the power steering is able to go and take a lot of that impact. The drivers will be starting to feel it in their shoulders, in their elbows. They'll feel a little bit of pain. The wrists will be taking a bit of impact as they constantly have to be on the money around the circuit not to land up with a bit of a problem, and that buildup of lactic acid will start to feel a little bit sore. They'll start to feel the frustration, and also as drivers you got to try and put that off to one side. They're also, majority of the drivers, running load cell pedals. On the brake pedal they have a little load cell which picks up how much force you're applying to the brake pedal itself. They do vary in how much force they can take, some of them going up to 200 kilograms of pressure before they bottom out, and that will be felt on the left leg. They'll start to feel it in the calf and in the lower back if they don't quite fit into the seat and don't go and have just a little bit of lumbar support, which some of the bucket seats do not have in racing. Now Wilfred Robertson trying to get past Francis Bernardi, does get around the inside, and Robertson now more than happy to keep up that drive. He's up in towards 6th position. Francis Bernardi allows that pass to happen, wasn't too concerned about it, and knows, listen, you're a little bit out of my pace right now. I'm just keeping a solid rhythm. I'm down into 7th, but that is still helpful in the points for myself. So Wilfred Robertson more than happy just to keep that drive and wants to try and close up as he's looking for the points. He's down in 13th at the moment, 37 points to Tyron Myberg on 39 points after round 1. And the likes of Francis Bernardi will be also looking to score a few points underneath his belt. He's 16th behind Kurt Swart, and now just circulating will be able to move up through the order. So just all about circulating, scoring points, moving forward, and drivers looking to maximize the pace. A few problems coming into play early stages of the race, but most of the drivers sorting out. Sean Larrera doing his stop-go 30-second penalties, and Jason Farmer will be looking at doing the same rather shortly. Ulrich Diaga up into 2nd place, as unfortunately for Peter de Villiers, he is caught amongst the field that has already done their pit stops and will still need to do his, and will drop him a little bit further down out of the top 10 than planned. Anthony Moritz falling down the order, still needs to do his pit stop. Opting this lap is not going to be the lap as he navigates the NGK chicane and will be taking a swift left on towards our Nordschleife circuit, back onto the green hell itself as he's trying to run it right to the end. Gerrit Swart down in 16th has got his drive through to serve plus a mandatory pit stop, and so does Tyron Myberg, who is trying to make up a little bit of ground. He's onto the back of Louis Trichart ahead of him. Trichart Now the Quokka team hoping to try and keep the Mustang at bay. It's going to be late on the anchors for Myburgh. See if he can try and hunt down any opportunity. And so far, Myburgh has got a solid run. He's carrying a lot of corner speed. Now trying to look if he can go around the outside. No room there. Louis keeping it all together. Pushes him out wide, ensuring they can try and hold that line a little bit more. It's going to be Tyron Myburgh having to really send it down the inside to try and move Louis off that racing line, off the apex, and ensure they can stay in for a solid run as they navigate their way through the circuit. It is a race and a half. Farmer into the pits to serve his stop, go 30-second penalty. A big mistake coming in for Louis Trichard. Tyron nearly going and falling off in sympathy. Was able to just catch the car and is now up into 17th position. Louis Trichard, however, caught a little bit of damage. It looks like Myburgh into the wall down the main straight. He's going to feel it, and Trichard retakes a position. Trichard retakes a position, has got some incredible drive down the straight. Both drivers making a problem for themselves a little bit too early on and rotating the positions back to one another. For Tyron Myburgh, it's going to be a bit of repair work to the car on his pit stop. Still yet to be done as he holds on to the last of the runners at this stage of the game, with Louis Trichard now able to open up a little bit of distance. As we do see Swart coming out of pit lane. Got a bit of damage to his car and still did not serve it. He did not serve the drive-through as well and feeling it. So he's got to go and repair the car, and that's not it. So he was doing the drive-through, but it didn't count. So served the drive-through, it didn't quite count. He got on the power, and unfortunately, that means he's got to do yet another lap with that damage on the car and still do the drive-through, going and impacting his race quite severely out there. Going to try and see it through to the end. He holds 16th at the moment, but that will bring him a lot closer to Louis Trichard and Tyron Myburgh, who are trying to close up the distance as well, with Myburgh needing to do his final pit stop. Peter de Villiers now into the pits from 8th position, and he will be seeing Gideon trying to close up at a rate of knots. Gideon down a long straight. This is from Joburg to Bloemfontein. This is just a keep your foot hard on the throttle and move your way up through the order. Now, we did see Anthony not going up into 6th gear, but right here, Gideon screaming as that engine is just at max RPM, trying to keep it all together, trying to keep the focus, and he's carrying the momentum through the left-hander into the right as you gently trail brake, gently go down the gears, and it's all about momentum at this stage of the game. So now onto the brake, a little tap on the brake, little tap on the brake again, down the gears, into 4th, into 3rd, will be aiming down into 2nd, hard on the anchors, oh, a little too much pace, down into 1st, able to save it over the curb and get himself going yet again. Unfortunately, taking a huge amount of time to slow the car down there. Was trying to just brake a little bit, brake a little bit, brake a little bit. Unfortunately, took a monster run into the water corners, lost out that drive, and now needs to pick up the pieces from that little bit of loss of time and having to see what he needs to do. Anthony, a little bit further down the order, is in 15th, yet to do his stop, along with Gert Swart needing to do swap and drive through, with Tyron Myburgh needing to do his stop. At the moment, top of the charts is Ruben Heineke, followed by Ulrich de Jager in 2nd place. Chris Heineke holds on to 3rd. Sean Loureiro holds on to 4th place, with Wilfred Robertson in 5th. Jason Farmer holds the fastest lap time of the race in 8 minute 18.1. Is in 6th position, with Francis Bernardi in 7th position. Peter de Villiers holds on to 8th, with Gideon Bernardi into 9th. And it's Libe Mankies holding on to that top 10 at the moment. Timothy Gomez comes across the line as he holds on to 11th position, with Hannes Kruger, who started right at the back, now up to 12th on a stellar run at this stage of the game. He's up 6 places from where he started. De Villiers is up 12, being one of our hardest charges at this stage of the game, and going to be smiling ear to ear. Sean Skitter back out on circuit, holds on to 13th, looking to try and recoup some of the points that has been lost. Unfortunately for Chris Van Zyl, he is down in 14th. He's down one position, but the one that's taken the hardest hit, the last of the runners, is Anthony Moritz, that still needs to do that pit stop. Is down 10 positions from where he started with Gert Swart. Oh, big impact, and there's Tyron into the side of him. Gert getting caught out there, and unfortunately that landed up with a bit of an impact. And let's quickly try and take a look at what exactly happened to the driver as we navigate our way through. Let's go to a helicam. He's still sporting that damage, and I do think it caught up with him as he navigated his way around, hooked over the curb into the grass, tried to keep it all back together, came back onto the racetrack, bounced around, spun the car out, stopped, and there's a little bit of impact. Got turned around. Tyron giving him a good knock on the rear, and Tyron will be sporting a bit of damage on his car as well. Gert, however, trying to just keep that car going. And remember, still needs to do the drive-through and the pit stop, despite driving through the pits. Didn't quite get it right, and unfortunately, that is going to be impacting his race, and that damage going and hurting him a little bit further as well. But give him his due. The driver is still out there. He's still pushing. He's still wanting to see it through to the end. And that right there goes and tells how our professionals do it. Our top pro drivers are able to go and move forward. They're also able to try and keep it all together. The one thing that you always got to remember, despite having a bad race, you see in the green, you got to see the checkered. You got to do everything you can to get there. Because we do have a drop round to play with, you want to try and maximize every race to score the maximum amount of points. And then at the end of the season, try and drop your worst. Don't allow a race to be a drop round. Try and make every race count. And that here in SimRace South Africa is the reason why we've had some of the best champions come out of the box, some of the best racers come out of the box, and leaves it till the final round of the championship to be separated by a single point, as drivers going to look to push that extra mile at this stage of the game. So some good racing out there, some tough racing, and drivers having to really think of what they need to do, as we do see Anthony into the pits along with Swart now trying to get the car sorted out. Michael Hassenbrook unfortunately has not left pit lane and will be just seeing it through to the end. Tyron trying to get a little bit of momentum as he makes his way through the carousel. Louis Trickhart a little bit further back in 18th position. And we did see, unfortunately for Swart, he took that damage early on in the race, and looks like he's towed it back to pit lane, opting not to try and drive it all the way back. He's got itself towed, get the car sorted out, get himself sorted out, and head back onto the track. So a number of drivers now just in survival mode at this stage of the game, as Trickhart trying to keep himself all together, bouncing over the curbs, having a tough time out there, and seeing what he can do. 7 laps into the race thus far, and that is Ruin Heineke at the top of the chart, pushing a little bit harder, trying to see where exactly can he get that run and how far is he willing to go. So far completed 177.1 kilometers around this circuit thus far, and plenty more to go, as 27 minutes and 56 seconds remain of round 2 right here of SimRace South Africa. simGT3, proudly sponsored by Oxford Distributors, Yellow Designs, and also on simGP. And you're more than welcome to join us and be a part of this amazing series. Doesn't matter which skill level you are, some of the professionals out at the top, or whether you are the young guns trying out to see where you stand against some of the best racers. If you're a rookie, we've got it all for you right here at SimRace South Africa. Make sure you take a look down in the description, go and link up with us, and also do go visit our sponsors, go and support them as well. A massive thank you to our partners here in SimRace South Africa, keeping the lights on and also keeping us moving forward. It hasn't been an easy race by no means, and our drivers looking to see it through to the end. Everyone just trying their absolute best to see it through till the very bitter end at this stage of the game. And so far, out in front, it is a top 5 lockout for the Griffin Sim Racing team, with Jason Farmer 41 seconds behind Sean Herrera, who we see on screen at the moment. Jason Farmer was leading out majority of the race, had to serve a drive-through penalty, had to get his pit stop done, plus got collared with a stop-go 30-second penalty on top of it because he was speeding in pit lane. That went and nailed him a little bit further down the field. So it's a little bit of catch-up work for the driver that currently holds the fastest lap time amongst all the drivers, and still trying to see if he can close up the gap as he navigates through the Nürburgring GP circuit, looking to try and get himself back onto the Nordschleife circuit itself, as we still got Gert Swart in pit lane trying to get his car sorted out after a tow back, and will need to not only just serve his drive-through penalty and his pit stop with limited time. He's going to be trying to concentrate on what he needs to do. Also, another driver that needs to get some repair work done to his car and his pit stop to be completed is Tyron Myberg, clipping the rear end of Gert's car and landed up taking a bit of nose damage as he's trying to pull his way back up through the field, and also trying to maximize the drive to get away from Louis Trichardt, who holds on to 17th position at this stage of the game. Is still a chance for drivers to move up into the top 10, and also a chance to win. It takes one mistake from any of these drivers, one little mishap, one little loss of concentration can impact your race and smash these cars against the wall at well over 110 kilometers an hour. That will go and take out the steering, will ensure that it's a long way back. 170 corners to try and navigate with a bent steering is never easy. Majority of the drivers opting to tow back at that stage. That threw them down the order, and will be thinking, right, what do I need to do to maximize the points here tonight at SimRace South Africa, and also where exactly they can move forward. Jason Farmer, however, trying to catch up to Loureiro up ahead. Loureiro, who's actually sitting 5.7 seconds from Chris Heineke, who is 43 seconds off the back of Ulrich Diaga. Ruben Heineke, 19 seconds ahead of the pack at this stage of the game. Continues a solid drive and holding on to that first position, something he did not expect off the start of the race, but it has played into the favor of keeping it smooth, keeping it calm, keeping it clean out on circuit, and also not going and putting the hammer down too hard as he was opting to wait it out that little bit longer. So a solid run from our drivers around the circuit. 24 minutes to go. Everyone feeling a little bit worn out, as only 2 cars yet to do their final pit stop. The rest of the field now just trying to circulate as Sean Loureiro make a mistake, running out a little bit wide. And I do think fatigue starting to kick over on a number of drivers as they try and keep the momentum going. Ruben Heineke trying to just keep his lap times consistent. Last lap time was at 8 minute 28 seconds, with Ulrich Diaga doing his personal best on the last lap with an 8 minute 26.1. Chris Heineke with an 8 minute 23.4, which is incredibly quick at the moment. Sean Loureiro, unfortunately, a 9 minute 13.8 to Jason Farmer's last lap time of a 9 minute 22.1. Both drivers did visit pit lane. Wilfred Robertson with an 8 minute 29.7 as his personal best that he managed to do on his last lap. Another good run coming in for a personal best is the Bear Monkeys, who sits with an 8 minute 36.9 on his personal best, with Timothy Gomez, the Go Slow team, not really going slow with an 8 minute 33 as the last of the runners that have actually got their better laps during the course of this race. And now, just trying to see it through to the end. Skitzer holds on to 12th position, 2 positions out of the top 10 from where he wanted to be, and won't be maximizing the points at this stage of the game for him after visiting a pit lane twice with damage. Had to go back in to try and get his car sorted out with a pit stop, and now just trying to see it through to the end. He's currently sits 34 seconds away from Timothy Gomez, who holds on to that 11th position. Heineke, however, losing a little bit of time to Ulrich Diaga, trying to see where he can try make up a little bit of time, seeing where on earth this Ferrari can get a little bit more pace underneath it compared to the BMW and the Aston Martin that is chasing him down. Sean Loureiro going and keeping a very close eye on the relative as he wants to try and make a bit of headway. He's 2 seconds off Chris Heineke at the moment, can just see him within sight, and Chris Heineke the Griffin Sim Racing team, after having a solid drive, was 5 seconds adrift of Sean Loureiro. Now, after a critical mistake, has brought Sean Loureiro a little bit closer, and also trying to see if he can get a little bit more involved in the fight. Loureiro, who is getting chased down by Gert Swart's 18th position. A lap down. Loureiro, oh, a little too far, a little too wide, into the grass again. Can he save it? Only just. And a deep breath moment coming in for Loureiro. Not quite what he wanted to have. Lost that little bit of time, and it also looks like Chris Heineke starting to feel it as well. Both drivers feeling the pressure. Both drivers trying to do everything they can, and it's a big impact into the wall. Chris Heineke going and losing it at the top. He loses out to Loureiro, and take a look at the side of that Aston Martin. Got a little bit too quick, got a little too confident, tires to let go, and unfortunately, impact against the wall, and that is going to be the nose, taking a solid run out of him, and losing out a little bit of top end as he comes onto the back straight, loses out to Loureiro, up into third position. Heineke, who was holding third, now drops down to fourth. Will be trying to close the distance between them. Not quite what they wanted to have. Another fight happening out on circuit. Kylian Bernardi and the likes of Lubea Meintjes trying to push one another. They are within a second, and looks like the Ferrari carrying a lot of momentum compared to the Lexus. The Lexus getting a bit of understeer in and out through the corners. Lubea Meintjes having exactly the same, except with his mid-engine not wanting to rotate enough underneath him. They'll be starting to look around at what can they do, what changes to traction control, as Kylian a little bit shallow on corner exit. Didn't quite carry the same drive, a little close to the dirt there. Got to be so careful as Kruger into the pits, try to get himself sorted out after a bit of a nightmare run. 19.5 minutes left in this race, and drivers just seeing if they can try and circle it to the end. Chris Heineke back into the pits trying to get some repair work done to his car, and it's a nightmare affair for these drivers as they have to fight through some serious adversity at this stage of the game. But everyone looking to try and move forward, everyone trying to see it through to the end, and it's going to be all about a major push through to the very end for round 2 of the championship. And next time by our next championship round, we'll be heading to Brands Hatch, a lot shorter compared to our 24-hour circuit, and the drivers will be racing on that 18th of May, 8 p.m. 1800 UTC, right here on the Sim Racing South Africa channel. We'll be catching up with all that action on the 18th of May, and not too far. And I do think there's going to be a number of drivers that are going to be quite thankful to be off this incredible circuit, this incredibly long circuit, and going on to something a little bit shorter. Brands Hatch, completely different setup, completely different drive, and drivers trying to see what exactly they can do. But at the moment, top of the charts, Jeroen Heineke has kept it consistent, kept it together. Last lap time was at 8-minute 25.9. Ulrich Diaga at 8-minute 26.3. Both not going and having a stellar run on their personal best, but they are trying to keep it together at this stage of the game, just trying to circulate and looking at roughly two and a half laps left in this race to try and capitalize on a stellar run. However, it is still a tough time out there, and drivers starting to feel it on their tires and starting to feel it in fuel as well, as they had to plan out for that long pace lap around the circuit. Also, they did come to a stop. It was a bit of a parking lot with a couple of drivers doing something a little bit on the naughty side that doesn't quite help them out. When you stopped, you're revving the car, you're expecting to get going, but the more that you rev, the more fuel you're burning, because you're just pumping that fuel into the cylinders, burning it up. And let's see if any of the drivers have managed to compensate for that as well, as that little bit of fuel can affect the race. Chris Heineke and Franz Bernardi into the pits, trying to get their cars sorted out. They'll have to keep an idea on Peter de Villiers a little bit further back, as he's trying to close up 1 minute and 17 seconds to them. But if they remain in the pit lane, it's going to be a great run, as Jason Farmer up into 4th place, Robertson up in towards that top 5. Francis Bernardi now exiting pit lane, and will be returning to the circuit as he does see Louis Trichardt trying to close up the distance. Trichardt a lap down and just trying to maintain a solid run. Myberg yet to do his final pit stop, and the likes of Gert Swart then needs to do his drive-through and mandatory pit stop. Otherwise, he will be suffering a penalty, dropping a little bit further down. Michael Hassenbroek and Wimpy Mankies still remain in pit lane, with Wimpy unfortunately DQ'd early on in this race. 6 laps down on everyone. Michael Hassenbroek deciding that he took that damage, pitted under towing, and unfortunately also will not be able to serve his mandatory pit stop that needs to be done, taking him clean out of the running. For likes of Chris Heineke, it's from bad to worse, as Bernardi now up into 6, Robertson into the top 5. De Villiers starting to gain a little bit of time here and will be looking to get past Chris Heineke, who at one stage of the game was 3rd place, now will be falling down the order, as here comes De Villiers to go and get the overtake done and dusted. De Villiers up at 7th, Heineke down into 8th, and there's no movement from that Aston Martin. No movement, and the drivers are starting to feel the impact. Here comes Lebert Mankies, who's now on a stellar charge. We'll see that he can move up through the order and score a position from 9th to 8th. What a drive on his part. Momentum working on his side. Chris Heineke from bad to worse as he still remains in pit lane. Is he going to be able to get that car back out on track before Gideon comes on by? Gideon, however, says, no thank you. You're not getting that done. I'm going to shift myself up to 9th. You're going down to 10th. And Chris Heineke is going to drop out of the top 10. Timothy Gomez comes across the line and will be moving up the order. Timothy into 10th, and Chris just down into 11th. Sean Skitter is also going to force him down the order as well. Heineke has lost out that drive, lost out the positions, and now is hemorrhaging positions. He is falling down the order worse and worse as Skitter up into 11th, 17 seconds off Timothy. Van Zyl will be trying to close up the distance as he is currently 1 minute and 2 seconds away from Chris Heineke, and he is catching up a rate of knot. The BDE Racing is on a stellar drive and a recovery drive after a bit of a tough one. Now it is just momentum to see it through to the end. For Chris Heineke, he is out of the running. He is falling down the order at a rate of knots, and this is going to hurt his championship points severely and not going to be the same run as he wants to have for any future results. He wants to ensure he stays in for the running, because this is going to hurt him properly. Remember, Chris Heineke was running 4th in the championship and now is bailing out of the top 10. He is falling down the order and it's not working out for him, and unfortunately it will continue to hemorrhage him throughout this race. Oh man, this is a nightmare scenario for Chris Heineke as he does have the field come barreling on by. I do want to bring up a driver that has got a stellar run who managed to go quicker than Jason Farmer. Jason Farmer was able to get a 8-minute 18. Well, take a look. Sean Skitter. Now it's the fastest lap time of the race with an 8-minute 16.7. Skitter going and capturing the fastest lap time of the race. He's up to 11th position and knows that he can get into the top 10. He's just got to get a solid run up through the order, trying to figure out what can he do to keep that solid run. Is it going to be enough? First place means 70 points, and so far sits in 12th, which is 39 points needed, and will help him out in the championship. Try and see if it's going to move him up through the order. The question is, will he be able to keep that solid run? He managed to score points all the way down to 42 cars, which 1 point will be issued at the end. So, I mean, this is going to be a huge run for a number of drivers to help them out in the championship, and it's going to be a possible jump up to see who is going to keep it all together come the end of this championship. We're round 2 of 6. There is not a lot left in it, and you've got to make sure you're on the money every step of the way. And so far, the Schleifer 24-hour circuit has taken a big knock to a number of drivers early on in this race, and has so far thrown them a little bit further down. Gideon, however, losing a lot of drive, and now has Timothy all over the back of him. Timothy in the Porsche, closing up at a rate of knots, and it does look like Gideon battling with that Lexus, not able to get the drive out, and Timothy on the back of him. The go slow now looks on the inside, gets the pass done. Gideon opening up the corner allows him to clear on by, and I do think that Gideon is just a little bit too slow, and I wonder if is it damage that's gone on. Now the engine definitely flat out down through the gears as he's trying to play a little bit of catch up at this stage of the game. Gideon lifting a little bit. I wonder if he's trying to fuel save. Did he miscalculate his fuel and now starting to feel it as we're down to 18 runners still out on track. Tyron Myberg needing to do his pit stop. Kurt Swart needing to do a drive-through and a pit stop to get the race done and dusted. Unfortunately, 21 cars started this race, and a good couple of them not able to see it through to the end. 9 laps into this race, with Ruben Heinecker currently top of the charts. Ulrich Diago holds on to second place, and he's got Sean Herrera trying to close up the distance. 10 minutes and 25 seconds to go, and drivers still giving it that final push up through the order. Jason Farmer 24 seconds away from Herrera, looking to try and get back onto the podium after leading out the race for a good little bit of time. But he's got Wilfred Robertson 21 seconds back. Wilfred Robertson slowly but surely trying to pull himself back into contention here and see if he can try and close up that gap at a rate of knots. Sean Skitter going to see Gideon ahead of him, and also trying to eye out that top 10. He sees Alexis. Oh, tail getting a little bit waggy out on Sean Skitter. He was able to save the car, and now just trying to keep the momentum going. A top 10 is ahead of him, but can't go and lose the pace just as yet. He's got to keep the momentum as Gideon in through the dirt, not going to be too comfortable. And now Sean Skitter trying to grab that top 10. Logistical Nightmare Driver really trying to keep on the power, trying to see if he can close the distance and see if he can make it work, as Skitter nailing it on the back, tries to see where he can get the drive. A little bit of a slide out. Gideon gives a little bit of lift, brake, allows Skitter to come through. Skitter back into the top 10, a little bit onto the dirt, getting a bit wily out there. He's pushing harder and harder to try and close up to Gomez, now 7 seconds up the road. Timothy Gomez currently making his way through the carousel. We'll see in his relative that, hold on, Sean Skitter is on my tail. Sean Skitter is closing up. He is now 7 seconds behind me. I'm 23 seconds behind the likes of Lubert Menkes up ahead. And now a top running order is about to have a swift kick in the pants and a change as well. Drivers going and pushing it that extra little bit here as Chris Heinecker remains in pits. Kurt needing to get his pit stop done and dusted. Tyron Myberg as well, as we're down to our final 8 minutes and 30 seconds. That is roughly an entire lap that still needs to be done. And Ruben Heinecker, who navigates his way around the circuit, leads out the charge 13 seconds ahead of Ulrich Diago. That's slowly but surely the BMW starting to try and close up that distance. Ulrich Diago hoping to try and bring it back into contention, and Ruben Heinecker is going to be seething at this stage of the game. He wants to try and capture the gold. He wants to be the first one to come across the line for the team and ultimately be the driver that finishes out on top of our grid. And now this is all about momentum. It's all about rhythm and who can see it through to the end. Who has got enough in the tank physically, mentally, and also in the sim to see it through to the very end, as our drivers will be absolutely booting it. The moment they hear leader is on the final lap, the moment they hear, hang on, we are pushing it a little bit further, is the moment they need to stay at the top. And oh, Tyron Myberg into the pits. What on earth happened to him? It looks like he collected the wall, possibly coming off the back straight, and some serious damage to the car. This is 30 seconds back, and we still see the damage of that car. So he definitely took a solid impact against the wall a little bit further up this race, and unfortunately that has gone and severely impacted him. You can see the Mustang looking a little bit worn out, and that is a horse going to the glue factory as we get word that our leader is on the final lap. Our leader is now just charging his way through, and Ryan looking to just see it right to the very end at this stage of the game, trying to pull himself back into fray. Myberg will be getting his car repaired. That will also count to his pit stop to try and throw that out of the way, and will then see it through to the very end. Ryan with 6 minutes and 16 seconds on the card, can't lift off the throttle because Ulrich Diaga 14 seconds behind, trying to close up the distance. Sean Lerera and Jason Farmer trying to make up some time, with Wilfred Robertson also hanging in the mix as well. Do not count out the Mustang. Peter de Villiers a little bit further back in 6th, with the Bear Mankeys holding on to 7th position. Sean Skitter, who holds the fastest lap time of the race, is in 8th place as he gets ahead of Timothy Gomez in 9th position, 1.9 seconds back. Kernick Amadani managing to get up into the top 10, has got Chris Van Zale, as Anthony Moritz trying to carve his way through, holds on to 12th position, as a number of drivers unfortunately coming out of the race. We started with 21 cars, we are now down to 17 runners, and a number of drivers still need to give it that final push through to the end, seeing what they can do, as Jason Farmer catching up to Anthony now, will be wanting to clear him as quick as he can. Gets on the power, quick flash of lights. Anthony sees it in the rearview mirror, hits the brakes, allows Jason Farmer to cruise on by, who's got his foot firmly planted to the floor, trying to make up any little bit of position, trying to see where exactly he can go, as with 4 minutes and 50 seconds left, Ryan Heineke giving it that last little bit of a push, trying to see if he can get it to the end of this race and ensure that he can take victory as he heads down the back straight. This is all about momentum now, and can he give it that final push? Van Zale managing to move up into 11th position as more and more drivers starting to feel the pressure. Heineke just trying to keep the movement forward. Chris Heineke soared into the pit lane and now just keeps an eye on Run, his brother, to push that little bit more, and it's a bit of pressure coming into play as well as Bernardi comes into the pit lane. He's up on the jacks and unfortunately running into a bit of an issue and won't be seeing it through just as yet. 4 minutes left on the cards. Heineke trying to give it that extra little bit of a run. Now down the main straight as he will be boosting across the line. 3 minutes and 47 seconds remain as they come across. It will be the final lap for our leader, Ryan Heineke, leading out the charge. Gert coming back onto the circuit after a bit of repair work. Ulrich Diaga on his final charge. Lerero trying to give it one last push to the very, very end. All the drivers now in survival mode. All the drivers trying to keep it all together and see what they can do. Is there enough fuel in these cars to do one more lap, as it is a major push down to the wire? Everyone trying to give it that one last go. Jason Farmer looking to try and put himself back onto the podium. 18 seconds behind Sean Lerera. Robertson 31 seconds behind, is trying to pull his way through. Peter de Villiers, the Mankeys along with Sean Skitter trying to close up the distance. Skitter 20 seconds behind Mankeys, with Timothy Gomez now sitting in 9th position, who is 9 seconds off back, and Kilian Bernardi rounding out our top 10 at this stage of the game, seeing where exactly they can give it that last little run. Everyone trying to see what is going to be that hard push to the end, who is going to be able to get it up towards the sharp end of the field. Chris Heineke, unfortunately, going and staying in the pits, and it looks like it's going to be Louis Tricard as well in pit lane. The Ferrari not able to see it through to the end and getting some work done on the car. Might have been towed back, and now that's just going to throw him down the order for everyone else that's behind. Like Gerrit Swartz at the moment sees Ulrich Diaga trying to navigate his way through, and Ulrich Diaga holds on for second place as Gerrit mines out of the way and actually got straight on. So an interesting run. Gerrit, unfortunately, giving a little bit too much room, and maybe a little bit more. He's back into the pits. So Gert deciding he's back into the pits to get that car sorted out, maybe opting that it's just not enough for him to get him to the end of the line, and we'll be waiting for our leader to come on by. So it's now down to the remaining drivers out on circuit to see it through to the very end. So far, it is going to be Ruben Heineke, who is on a stellar charge and hoping to make it work out. 3 positions up from where he started and has continued to keep a solid run and a huge gap to Ulrich Diaga. But our hardest charger through the positions is Peter de Villiers, who's up 14 places from where he started. He holds 6th overall, and he is being tailed by the likes of Bert Mankies, who holds 7th position, up 8 places from where he started, and slowly but surely been chipping away, trying to keep up the momentum. He's getting chased down by Sean Skitter, who's trying to close up that huge 7-second deficit at this stage and trying to make up that little bit of time. Sorry, Skitter sits 17 seconds off the back of him and try and see where exactly he can move forward. Ruben Heineke up onto his 10th lap, and it's still a stellar charge on his part. Remember, this circuit, once again, 25.3 kilometers. They have done 10 laps around it, and it's not an easy circuit to do it. It is 170 corners, so in terms of kilometers that have been done by our leader, they've so far done 253 kilometers when they get to our checkered flag with 170 corners. Over 10 laps, they have turned wheels 1,700 times around this circuit. And if that hasn't worn you out, if that hasn't taken out some of the concentration, well, you have most certainly gone and really seen it through to the very end and somehow become superhuman to make that happen. These drivers have gone through an endurance race in their own right and still putting in their fast lap times of the race. Sean Loureiro, last lap time was at 8:25.7, which was his personal best, with Peter de Villiers managing to get an 8:43.4 is his personal best, and Robert Mankies managing to get an 8:35.5, his personal best during the course of this race. Sean Skitter still holds on to the fastest lap time of his race. Last lap time was an 8:18.6, but was invalidated on that one because he put a wheel wrong, which means his fastest his time that's on the cards that's been allowed is an 8:16.7 that is valid out on this track, and he is still trying to give it that extra little bit of a run as our leader. Now, just trying to keep the momentum all the way through. It is just a waiting game. Everyone's done their pit stops. Gert Swart's got his drive-through penalty, which he needs to still serve, but won't be able to do it as we're on our final lap. And he did pull in the pits to try and get himself sorted out. Anthony in now 13th position, loses out to Bernardi. The Aston Martin managing to get the jump, and Anthony a little bit further down, now losing 2 seconds adrift at this stage of the game, trying to slowly but surely reel back the positions, trying to see if he can get a little bit more involved in the fight. And for our Oxford Distributors, Anthony Moritz, unfortunately not having an easy time out there, scored some damage to his car early on, and now just trying to see it through to the end. A little bit of a lift and hard braking, and I think he's starting to feel it in terms of fueling and not wanting to give it too much of a push at this stage. Just trying to see it through to the end. Does not want to land up towing, otherwise he will lose out to Hannes Kruger and the likes of Tyrone Myberg further back. Louis Trickhardt as well is hanging on for dear life as he was part of an earlier incident, a T-bone with Jason, unfortunately going square into his door. Ruben Heineke now heading into the last couple of sections of the circuit. I mean, these are a proper run. Drivers trying to move their way up through the order. A couple of new drivers, new names to the season, and also the new generation of sim racers looking to become champions here in Sim Race South Africa, and that's what we love to have. Some new drivers, some new names, also some returning and veterans to the field, looking to make their mark here for the 2026 Season 2 here in the Sim Race South Africa simGT3 Championship, with a monumental charge on the cards for every single one of our drivers. It has been a difficult race, and so far, as we keep an eye on our leader, navigating the last couple of corners, just trying to keep it all together, Ruan Heineke has been waiting for quite some time. It has been a long, long time since Ruan Heineke has managed to put the car right up to the top to see the checkered flag in first place. It has been a long time for Ruan Heineke as he comes down the main straight, flashing his lights. He's happy on this one. Good to see it out there, Run. Go and give it that final push. Ulrich Diaga will be looking to get second place. Two drivers that have been waiting for their opportunity have finally managed to get their way through. Sean Loureiro in third, managing to run up through the order. It's been a few bumps and scrapes, but he is just trying to keep it on track. Jason Farmer trying to see it on the way through as well. Wilfred Robertson holds on to the top 5, but as our leaders make their way through, it is just a couple of corners to go. Ruan Heineke looking to score big here at Nordschleife, here in Germany. Ruan Heineke of Griffin Sim Racing Team crosses the line in first place and has done it. He has waited for his opportunity and maximizes the points despite the odds. Ulrich Diaga gets second place as he comes across the line, seeing Tyron Myberg waiting for the rest of the field. Sean Loureiro has done enough. 14 seconds. Now just needs to see it through to the end. Has beaten out Jason Farmer. Will capture the bronze in the BMW and will be more than happy to walk away with some crucial points in the bag. It has been a monstrous race, and I do think, even though we've got our winners, the entire field that has slugged it through 1 hour and 30 minutes of racing have fought it out. Well over 1,700 times they've been turning the wheel, and has been well into over 200 kilometers driven around the circuit as they come across the line. Every single one of them have done an amazing job to see it through, despite all the problems that have gone on, despite the confusion, despite problems of where on earth are we going to start. These drivers will see it through to the end. They have gone and kept the motto: if you see the green, you got to see the checkered. And it doesn't matter whether you're the fastest, doesn't matter whether you're the slowest. It is the drivers that have seen it through to the end. Robertson will hang on to a top 5, with Peter de Villiers in 6th, ahead of Lubet Meintjes, who holds on to 7th, 8 seconds. But at the moment, Skitter giving it that final push. He's trying to gain a position right to the line. Skitter has got a solid run at the moment, but can he close the difference? Can he make it work? 4.5 seconds. This race is still on. De Villiers still holds on. He's 8 seconds up the road. Needs to keep it clean. Meintjes holds on towards 6th position. Skitter trying to close up the difference between them, as it's a huge, huge run. Skitter 3.7 seconds as they try and keep the momentum. Francis Bernardi comes across the line. Anthony Monitz comes across the line. Tyler Myberg and Tyron Myberg as well finishes up in the order. Hannes Kruger, Louis Trichard, Gert Swart, all will be coming across the line. They're more than happy on a solid drive. Skitter pushing it that little bit harder. Sees Meintjes ahead of him. Lubet Meintjes now trying to hold on. He needs to give it that final push. Otherwise, the Honda NSX will be on his tail. Skitter sees an opportunity here. Through the carousel they go. And it's going to be a good exit for Skitter as he closes down the difference. Can he make it work here? Peter de Villiers also losing time. They're bailing as fast as they can around the circuit. It is a hard push right down to the wire. Who has got that final little bit of a run? Who's got enough in the tank to see it through to the end? It's going to be a proper charge down towards the wire. Mankeys trying everything he can, hooking the curb, gets a little bit unsettled, trying to bring it back. Skitter on his tail, trying to see if he can make it work underneath him. Looking left, looking right. Skitter hoping to get into the top 6. This is going to be a charge down to the wire. Skitter looks around the outside, couldn't quite get it done. It's going to be both cars a little bit unsettled, but it's Mankeys who puts it in the dirt. Skitter was able to save the rear, gets a tank slapper on the exit, trying to get the power down a little bit early. Looks for the inside line, couldn't quite get it done. These two are hammer and tongs right to the very end. The Mankeys trying to keep the Ferrari ahead of the Honda NSX, doing everything he can to try keep that final drive. Jabir currently, well, it's De Villiers who is 4 seconds up the road. Skitter off into the Skitter collects the wall, saves it, tries to bring it back. This is a huge run down to the wire. Skitter has been pushing harder and harder. Is he going a little too crazy with this? Right down to the wire. He cannot afford a mistake right now. Tries to close up on the brakes. Gets right into the back. And it's going to be Lumiere Mankeys into the dirt, rejoining the field. And that is going to be Skitter pass. Skitter up into towards the top 5. Currently trying to do everything he can. Skitter gives it that final push. Can he get across the line? Can he keep it all together? The rear stepping out. Lumiere Mankeys not going to be fighting back at the moment, but it's going to be De Villiers who is slow. Skitter has an opportunity here. Skitter's 2 seconds off the back. De Villiers is slow. Is Skitter going to be able to get that pass done? De Villiers trying to keep himself alive, trying to give it that final push down towards the straight. Is Skitter going to have enough pace to close down the order? This is going to be a serious run for him to give it everything he's got. He's pulling Mankeys behind him, trying to close down the distance on the Ferrari ahead. De Villiers managing just to get his way through as he comes towards the GP circuit. It's all about keeping the car in nick. It's all about keeping it going. It looks like he's got the drive. He's got the line. De Villiers stays alive. He crosses the line with Sean Skitter right on his tail, right to the very end. What a drive. Mankeys will come across the line. Got a bit of damage to his car, but we'll see it through. Timothy Gomez will be the next one to get across the line, with Kylian Benani trying to bring himself across the line. Chris Van Zyl will see it through to the end as well. A number of drivers having a stellar run. And what an incredible drive. And a massive respect coming out from the grandstands to all of those that finished out towards this race, and it's being just voiced out there by a number of drivers as a well done to see it through to the end, no matter what. If you see the green, you got to see the checkered, and it doesn't matter where you are in the field. They managed to see it through with only 2 cars yet to cross the line. It's Kylian and Chris as they navigate their way through. Chris running out a little bit wide, trying to keep it all together. And once again, doing a stellar job out there. Kylian in the Lexus, trying to see it through. And we're going to follow our drivers through to the end. We're going to stick with them because you know what? They stuck it out to the very end. And us as petrol heads, us as drivers, us as incredible spectators get to follow our legendary drivers through and through in this championship, and we'll support every single one of them across the line, no matter the circumstances. Kylian will be the next driver to cross the line. 11 laps in this race, done and dusted. Kylian will get the Lexus eventually across the line and see the checkered flag. Last of our drivers to see it through to the end. Chris Van Zyl in the Ferrari 296 will see it through to the very end and will be capturing points for the championship. What a drive, and well done to all our competitors. as our drivers have completed an incredible race. It has been up and down. We saw the highs, we saw the lows, but we got to see the drive at the end. Drive through penalties, stop go 30 seconds. Pit stops that didn't quite go their way. Drivers had to fight it out for 11 laps around an incredibly hard circuit. One of the hardest circuits in the entire calendar now underneath the belt, and championship points being scored. Everyone looking to move forward to round 3 on the 18th of May, up to Brands Hatch, as they say farewell to Germany, say farewell to the Green Hell, and farewell to an incredible race. Folks, it has been such a stellar time being on air with you all. It's been an incredible time to see our drivers fight it out, and well done to every single driver that crossed the line, every single driver that gave it that final push till the very end to see it through towards the top end of the order. And a massive thank you to all our admin behind the scenes of the Sim Race South Africa, to all the drivers, teams, and family members being a part of it, to our partners, YOLO Design, along with Oxford Distributors, going and being a part of the show right on Sim Racing GP. A massive shout out for hosting our service right here in Sim Racing South Africa. Can't do it without them. But the most important thank you has to go out to you, the petrol heads, people tuning in, supporting, and being a part of this incredible race. We look forward to seeing you guys next time here at Sim Race South Africa to go and support our Premier Division, to support every single one of our drivers as we take on the Brands Hatch round 3 for the simGT3. If you're interested in joining, head over to Sim Racing GP and go and sign up and follow us for Sim Racing South Africa. Also, go and take a look in the description as we go and keep you guys informed. Go and enjoy some of the conversation. 21 days we return to full flight racing action as our drivers get a little bit of breathing time to get themselves sorted out and back in towards the race. Folks, it's been an incredible time, and I want to say thank you very much to every single one of you. And like always, I'd like to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, everybody, from Sim Racing South Africa.